Chapter 1796. Seeing the astonishment on Xiaming's face, Xiaohua immediately had a bad feeling and hurriedly said, "Fellow Taoist Xia, this poor Taoist should have come to get this thing 4 years ago, but due to some delays, this poor Taoist had no choice but to come now. Is it? Oh, fellow Taoist, don't worry." Xiaming saw Xiaohua's nervousness and waved his hand with a smile. "We are all cultivators. Who doesn't encounter things that we can't control? It's possible for us to go into seclusion for 5 to 10 years. Fellow Taoist wouldn't delay a breakthrough just because of a magic tool, right?" Exactly," Xiaohua said with a smile. "Therefore, my Qiao workshop will do its best to preserve the magic tools that are entrusted to you. Only when no one comes to get it in the end will we deal with it." Xiaming said, "Of course, this can only be done by I's teacher." "Good." Xiaohua clapped his hands and said, "Qiao workshop really lives up to its name." You flatter me, you flatter me," Xiaming said with a smile. "It's just that fellow Taoist's item isn't in I's records, which makes I feel quite strange. According to what fellow Taoist said, it should have been recorded in I's jade slip 4 years ago. However, fellow Taoist, don't worry, please follow I." Xiaohua naturally wasn't in a hurry. Since it wasn't because of the delay, he wasn't afraid that something big would happen to the Qiao workshop. Even if something happened to the Qiao workshop, perhaps it was something that Xiaohua wished for, right? Under Xiaming's guidance, Xiaohua came to a quiet room on the 3rd floor. "Please wait a moment." After Xiaming invited Xiaohua to sit, he clapped his hands and a butterfly-like exquisite yellow talisman appeared in his hand. Under the urging of his magic power, the yellow talisman really turned into a fluttering butterfly and flew into the wall on Xiaohua's left hand. The wall rippled with light and shadow, then returned to normal. This matter still needs to be decided by the martial uncle refining the magic tool. I don't know if he's free right now, fellow Taoist, please don't worry. Xiaming cupped his hands and also sat down. With a wave of his Taoist robe, he took out a plate of spirit fruits and invited Xiaohua to taste. "Many thanks." Xiaohua wasn't polite either. He picked up a spirit fruit the size of a cherry and indifferently placed it in his mouth. A wave of bitterness immediately colored his tongue. "Damn it, what kind of spirit fruit is this?" Xiaohua frowned slightly. However, before he could relax his brows, a spicy sensation rose from the bottom of his tongue. Subsequently, sour, bitter, salty, and various other tastes appeared. When all these tastes disappeared, a faint sweetness emerged from Xiaohua's mouth. Although the sweetness was faint, it instantly filled his entire body. For a moment, his body was incomparably comfortable, and his entire mind was filled with joy. Fellow Taoist, how does this mortal realm fruit taste?" Xiaming's voice was heard. "This is a spirit fruit specially provided by my workshop. It's best for consolidating one's cultivation and clearing one's mind. Many Taoists have asked my workshop about the origin of this spirit fruit after eating it." "Great." After Xiaohua carefully savored the meaning of "ordinary is true," he sighed with emotion. He didn't think that this kind of simple truth that the people of the secular world would savor for their entire lives could be comprehended from this small spirit fruit. Unfortunately, there are even more fellow Taoists who, after tasting 2 flavors, spat out the spirit fruit. Xiaming said with deep meaning, "This kind of fellow Taoist, from what I see, I'm afraid their cultivation won't reach great success." "Perhaps." Xiaohua smiled apologetically. Just as they were talking, ripples appeared on the wall where the butterfly disappeared. Xiaming hurriedly stood up and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist, you're lucky. My martial uncle actually has free time. If it's normal for him to stay for half a year." Xiaohua naturally knew that the person who came was a golden core cultivator. He also hurriedly stood up and respectfully waited there. At the same time, a flat figure appeared in the ripples. After the figure became full, the golden core cultivator walked down from the wall. However, this cultivator was also wearing camouflage clothing. Xiaohua didn't know if this was the cultivator surnamed by he saw last time. "Greetings, martial uncle," Xiaming hurriedly said. Xiaohua also cupped his hands and said, Greetings, senior. I don't know if you're senior by. The golden core cultivator waved his hand, returning the greeting, and asked, Xia Ming, what's the matter? It's like this. Xia Ming explained the purpose of his visit, and Xiaohua also handed over his command medallion. After the golden core cultivator looked at the command medallion, he nodded and said, This old man knows about this matter. As he spoke, he patted his hand and took out a spirit armor from his storage pouch. This spirit armor looked very ordinary. Most of it was made up of hexagonal blocks. These hexagonal blocks were engraved with fine runes, and these runes didn't show any spiritual power. At the intersection of all the hexagonal blocks, there were fine, cloud-like, cotton-like objects. The clouds were also covered with runes, and these runes were extremely different from the runes on the blocks. Looking at the center of the spirit armor, there was a palm-sized oval on the front and back. The oval emitted a faint purple-red brilliance, and there were faint flashes of lightning. Wonderful! Seeing this, Xiaohua couldn't help but be overjoyed. He didn't need to use his divine sense to look at it. Just by looking at the appearance of this spirit armor, Xiaohua liked it at first glance. Fellow Taoist Huang, this is the spirit armor you entrusted to this old man to refine. The golden core cultivator handed over the spirit armor and asked, Take a look, are you satisfied? Xiaohua took it. It was very light in his hand. Sweeping it with his divine sense, he saw the fine formations inside, the overflowing spiritual power, and the flashing lightning formations on the front and back of the oval. Xiaohua had never seen these before. This is exactly what this junior entrusted. Xiaohua said with a smile. Then he was about to put the spirit armor into his space. Wait, fellow Taoist Huang. Seeing this, the golden core cultivator said, Fellow Taoist Huang, you can't take this spirit armor away for the time being. This old man has something to say. But Xiaohua was stunned. He caressed the spirit armor in his hand, unwilling to give it back. Fellow Taoist don't panic. The golden core cultivator said with a smile. That day when this old man took your 2 magic treasures, I only roughly looked at them and casually estimated the price. But later on, when this old man was refining, I discovered that there were some hidden things in those 2 damaged magic treasures. And this old man was unwilling to destroy these hidden things, so I could only add some other materials. It took me a full 3 years to refine it successfully. To tell you the truth, this old man also likes this armor. The golden core cultivator said, However, since this old man spent his own materials, there are still 3 years left. The price naturally can't be compared to the past. If fellow Taoist wants to take it away, it's not impossible. This old man hopes that fellow Taoist can take out a spirit stone that matches this old man's hard work. So it's like this. Xiaohua was a bit embarrassed. Chapter 1797. Xiaohua hesitated for a moment and probed, But what if I don't have more spirit stones? It's not a big deal. The golden core cultivator smiled and said, I just acted on my own accord and couldn't bear to destroy the formation in the previous treasure. That's why I spent so much time. If fellow Taoist doesn't have more spirit stones, then you can take this spirit armor. Then why did Senior? Xiaohua didn't understand and asked curiously. Didn't I say it just now? I also like this spirit armor and didn't give it to Xia Ming. First, it was because of the delay, and second, I wanted to see if fellow Taoist would be willing to part with it. I will definitely exchange it with spirit stones or treasures that will satisfy fellow Taoist The golden core cultivator quickly said. Then how many spirit stones are you willing to give? Xiaohua smiled and asked. The golden core cultivator was overjoyed and quickly gave a number. Good boy, it seems like this spirit armor is really good. Xiaohua was overjoyed and said, Thank you for your hard work, Senior Bai. This spirit armor is for me to protect my life. I don't want to exchange my life for spirit stones. Hearing this, the golden core cultivator's expression changed slightly. Although Xiaohua couldn't see the cultivator's expression through the fog, he quickly waved his hand and took out the 2 magic artifacts from the spirit husbandry sect. Then he took out 5 spirit herbs that were around 5,000 years old and placed them on the table beside him. He explained, "Senior Bai, please forgive me. I didn't know how much I should give Senior Bai, so I took the liberty to ask. We've already agreed on these 2 magical treasures. These 5 spiritual herbs are another reward for you, Senior White. Please accept them." The Golden Core Cultivator nodded slightly after hearing this. When Xia Ming opened all the jade boxes, Xia Ming's eyes widened. He pointed at a jade box and said, "Uncle Master, this is a 5,000-year-old returning separation grass." The Golden Core Cultivator was also shocked. He waved his hand and the jade box containing the returning separation grass flew into his hand. After carefully examining it, he nodded and said, "This is indeed the returning separation grass. It's an essential spirit herb for refining the nascent soul pill." Then he raised his head and looked at Xiaohua. His gaze looked through the fog. Last time, Xiaohua already knew that a Golden Core Cultivator could see through his concealment, but because Xia Ming was beside him, he didn't take the risk to remove the concealment. He cupped his hands and said in surprise, This is the returning separation grass?" Senior White, this junior thought that it was just an ordinary spirit herb. "It was only because it was very old that I decided to give it to you." "That's right, this is the returning separation grass. It's exactly the spiritual grass that I need." The Golden Core Cultivator smiled. He didn't care if Xiaohua's words were true or not. With a wave of his hand, he put the returning separation grass into his storage bag and said, "Fellow Taoist Bai's character is indeed excellent. Most cultivators would turn around and leave if they were able to get such a good deal. The rest would also take out a certain amount of spirit stones as compensation. But for someone like fellow Taoist Bai to actually use the same price as the ingenious workshop's magic treasures as compensation, this is the first time this old man has seen such a thing in the past 100 years. Junior only wanted to know how much this spirit armor was worth. Xiaohua said without hiding anything, "I didn't really want to compensate that much. And this returning separation grass. This junior doesn't even recognize it." The Golden Core Cultivator laughed heartily. He patted Xiaohua's shoulder and said, "Kid, you're quite interesting. I wouldn't dare. Xiaohua's face was very respectful. He wanted to hide but didn't dare to. Soon after, the Golden Core Cultivator waved his hand and took out another golden triangular token and a jade slip. He handed it to Xiaohua and said with a smile, "This jade slip records the method to refine and use the spirit armor. This token is this old man's personal token. Next time, you can take this token and come directly to this old man. This old man will give you priority in refining magic treasures." Xiaohua was overjoyed. He quickly took it and bowed, "Thank you, Senior White." This old man is Xianqian. Remember this. The Golden Core Cultivator transmitted his voice. Junior understands. Junior's name is Xiaohua. Xiaohua hurriedly transmitted his voice. And this old man will remember. Xianqian nodded and said to Xia Ming, "Take these 4 spirit herbs and 2 magic treasures. Help me send fellow Taoist Huang off." Xia Ming received the magic treasures and spirit herbs and said respectfully, "Yes, martial uncle." "See you off, Senior White." Xiaohua bowed and said. After Xianqian nodded and disappeared into the wall again, Xia Ming cupped his hands and said, "Congratulations, fellow Taoist Huang. You actually obtained the favor of martial uncle I know of. This is the first time this has happened." Xiaohua scratched his head and said with a somewhat embarrassed expression, "I was just speaking the truth." This world lacks cultivators like fellow Taoist Huang who speak the truth. Xia Ming sighed with emotion and very politely sent Xiaohua out of the Qiao workshop. Xiaohua happily exited the craftsman workshop. He didn't go far and instead found an inn nearby. He opened a quiet room and began to refine the spirit armor. A few days later, in the quiet room, although Xiaohua's face was extremely tired, he still had a happy expression. He cast the last spell on the spirit armor and the spirit armor suddenly emitted an extremely brilliant cyan color. In the middle of the cyan color, There were 2 flashing balls of lightning. Next, Xiaohua bit the tip of his tongue and spat a drop of blood onto the spirit armor. After the spirit armor received the blood essence, it actually emitted a slight rumbling sound. After the rumbling sound passed, the spirit armor floated away and directly covered Xiaohua's body before disappearing. Damn, it really is a magic treasure. It deserves its reputation. Xiaohua sensed that there wasn't a trace of magic power left in his body, and very excitedly said with a smile, "Just refining it once consumed all of this young master's magic power. If this magic weapon can no longer protect this young master, then this young master's magic power and spiritual herbs would have been wasted." Soon after, Xiaohua took a medicinal pill and began to restore his magic power. The next morning, Xiaohua left the inn, and just as he was about to look for the spirit camel carriage, his gaze fell on the huge stone building not far away. It was the place where Xiaohua participated in the secret auction in Weeping Moon City last time. However, at this time, the front of the building was empty and there was no one at all. It was a typical example of a deserted building. The secret auction is held once every 3 years. It hasn't been 6 years yet. Who would come here? Xiaohua thought and turned around to leave. However, at this time, it was really a coincidence. A figure hurriedly walked out of the building and walked towards him. Seeing this person's face, Xiaohua smiled. This person was not an outsider but the master of the auction, Chang Fian. He was the one who gave Xiaohua the token to participate in the secret auction. Senior Chang. Xiaohua saw that Chang Fian was walking towards him and felt embarrassed to avoid him. He stood there and cupped his hands. "Oh, fellow Taoist." Chang Fian seemed to be used to it. He casually cupped his hands and glanced at Xiaohua before passing by. However, just as he passed by, he came to his senses and turned around in surprise. "Or that? Junior Xiaohua, I met Senior Chang at the auction in Weeping Moon City 5 years ago." Xiaohua hurriedly said. Senior Chang didn't mind and even gave me a token. As he spoke, Xiaohua glanced at the door of the secret auction. That's right, that's right." Chang Fian was actually very happy. He actually reached out and patted Xiaohua's shoulder. This action was really inappropriate. No cultivator, unless it was their family or teacher, would let others touch their body, even if it was such an intimate action. And Kun Fian's sneak attack on Xiaohua, wasn't it just a seemingly unintentional pat? Xiaohua's expression changed when he saw this. He shrunk his shoulder and was about to dodge. Chang Fian also realized that his action was inappropriate. He quickly retracted his arm and took the opportunity to reach out with his other hand. Clasping his hands together, he cupped his hands and said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, we haven't seen each other for many years. It seems that your cultivation has improved again." Xiaohua naturally cupped his hands and returned the greeting. He smiled apologetically and said, "Senior, thank you for your praise. Junior has been cultivating diligently. Unfortunately, fate didn't allow me to reach foundation establishment. I'm really helpless." Chang Fian smiled and said, "Foundation establishment isn't a problem. It's your cultivation potential. To be more direct, it's your Tao heart. If you have a Tao heart, then foundation establishment is just a small threshold. It's only a matter of time." Xiaohua smiled bitterly. That's what Junior thinks, but others don't think so. They've always wanted Junior to reach foundation establishment as soon as possible. They've never thought about Junior's future. Hee, fellow Taoist Xiao, you don't know how lucky you are. There are people who want you to reach foundation establishment, which means that there are people who care about you. If you reach foundation establishment and no one cares, then that's inappropriate." Chang Fian said very kindly. Xiaohua smiled and said, "Senior Chang's words are the truth of the world. Junior has received your teachings. I won't have any complaints in my heart. I'll immerse myself in cultivation and strive to reach foundation establishment as soon as possible." Good. Chang Fian nodded. With fellow Taoist Zhao's determination and the support of spiritual plants, foundation establishment shouldn't be a problem. Soon after, Chang Fian looked up and said with a smile, "I wonder if fellow Taoist Xiao has some free time today? I just happen to have some things to discuss with fellow Taoist Xiao." Seeing that Chang Fian was talking with an aura-refining cultivator for a long time and was even talking about spiritual plants, Xiaohua already had a premonition in his heart. After hearing Chang Fian's invitation, he said very respectfully, "I also want to return Senior Chang's favor from last time. Please come to the tea house in front for a chat." Hee good. Chang Fian was very satisfied with Xiaohua's attitude. "Senior, this way please," Xiaohua said respectfully. After Chang Fian led Xiaohua to a nearby tea house, they entered a quiet room. Looking at the light flashing on the wall of the quiet room, Chang Fian clapped his hand. From the delicate teapot, a light red spiritual tea flew out and landed in the teacup in front of Xiaohua. "I don't dare to trouble Senior Chang." Xiaohua's face was full of fear as he cupped his hands and said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao." Chang Fian poured tea into his own teacup. Then, he picked up the teacup and signaled Xiaohua to drink. After drinking the tea himself, he sighed and said, "Sai, I have something to ask of you today." Chapter 1798. Xiaohua finished the spiritual tea in his hand in one gulp. Hearing Chang Fian's words, he quickly put down the teacup and said with a smile, "Senior Chang is really treating me as an outsider. Last time, I was only bidding for some spiritual herbs and received Senior's help, allowing me to participate in the secret auction to broaden my horizons. I have always wanted to repay Senior's thoughts of helping me. Today, I am able to meet Senior again. It is fate. If there is anything I can do, please tell me." A smile appeared on Chang Fian's face. "I am ashamed. Last time, it was also my unintentional action. Sai, you also saw what happened last time. I was only in a hurry to find the traces of the cultivator who provided the flying sword, so I had no choice but to give the token of the secret auction to you. Senior, isn't this just drinking and pecking? The way of karma?" Xiaohua said with a smile. That's right, that's right." Chang Fian clapped and said with a smile, "Since fellow Xiao understands so clearly, I will not say anything more." Then, with some hesitation, some anxiousness, and some expectation, he asked, "Fellow Xiao, that Ling Yitzao of yours, did you sell it in the secret auction last time?" "It is indeed Ling Yitzao." Xiaohua secretly nodded. Looking at Chang Fian's expression, he asked, "Is it Senior Chang who needs this Ling Yitzao?" "In that case, fellow Taoist did not sell it?" Chang Fian said with wild joy. Xiaohua nodded and said, "That's right. Although this junior participated in the secret auction 5 years ago, the items in the auction were all things that this junior had no use for, so this junior did not bid." Great, great. Chang Fian said with a very excited smile. "Fellow Taoist Xiao is indeed my lucky talisman. Last time I saw fellow Taoist Xiao, when I went to look for the flying sword, I had an idea. Seeing you again today has resolved the knot in my heart. Damn, I seem to have not agreed to give Ling Yitzao to you." Xiaohua glanced at Chang Fian and thought very strangely. However, seeing Chang Fian so excited, Xiaohua's heart moved. He clapped his hand and took out the jade box containing Ling Yitzao. He handed it to Chang Fian and said, "This is the 2,000-year-old Ling Yitzao, please keep it well." Ah! When Chang Fian saw Xiaohua directly place Ling Yitzao in front of him, he was instead stunned and even somewhat at a loss for what to do. He immediately lost the demeanor of a foundation establishment senior and said somewhat stutteringly, "Xiao. Fellow Taoist Xiao. You're not afraid that this old man? And this old man seems to have yet to discuss with fellow Taoist what to exchange, right? You're only at the middle stage of foundation establishment. I'm really not afraid of you." Xiaohua had dual cultivated with Fairy Hong Xia for many years. He was very clear about the cultivation level of a foundation establishment middle stage cultivator. Naturally, he was not afraid that Chang Fian would do anything behind his back. He only said indifferently, "This junior has already seen Senior Chang's demeanor. You spend your days dealing with rare and precious items. If it was a normal day, how could this Ling Yitzao enter Senior's eyes? Didn't Senior not mention this at all last time? I reckon that Senior was in a hurry to find this Ling Yitzao. Otherwise, what kind of item would the auction in Weeping Moon City not have?" Xiaohua did not mind, but his indifferent attitude really shocked Chang Fian. Chang Fian waved his hand and opened the Ling Yitzao. He nodded and said, "This old man thought it was 1,000-year-old Ling Yitzao. It's actually 2,000 years old. If I had exchanged this for the Qianmo secret stone, it would really be a pity." As he spoke, he glanced at Xiaohua and said, "This old man will accept it first?" "Senior, please." Xiaohua nodded. After Chang Fian accepted the Ling Yitzao, he let out a sigh of relief. With a calm expression, he drank another mouthful of spirit tea and said, "Nephew Zhao's magnanimity really exceeded this old man's expectations. This old man was just thinking about how to exchange for this Ling Yitzao. Nephew Xiao actually gave it to this old man." Hearing that Chang Fian actually changed fellow Taoist Xiao to nephew Xiao, Xiaohua was secretly happy and said, "This junior believes in Senior Chang. Sai, nephew Xiao, you are a cultivator. You must guard against others. In the future, you must not be like this." Chang Fian said sincerely. "Yes, this junior understands." Xiaohua quickly said. Chang Fian looked at Xiaohua and said with a smile, "This old man does not have any Qianmo secret stone or gold leaf. That's why I did not dare to trade with nephew Xiao. I was afraid that nephew Xiao would not be satisfied. However, nephew Zhao's honesty has made this old man feel awkward." Soon after, Chang Fian's eyebrows slightly moved, as if he had made a decision. He continued, "However, since nephew Xiao thinks so highly of this old man cannot be stingy. And that's right. It was a good friend of my city lord who entrusted it to this old man." "What? Fairy Chiue's good friend?" Xiaohua was stunned and said curiously, "Then, isn't that a nascent soul cultivator?" "He, although he is a good friend of my city lord, this senior is not a nascent soul cultivator." Chang Fian said with a smile, "Moreover, it is not this senior's own matter. It is a descendant of senior, who is about to condense his core. However, he does not have the confidence to condense his core and needs Ling Yi grass. You also know that if it was a normal day, this Ling Yi grass would not be considered much. This old man does not dare to boast. 1 or 2,000-year-old Ling Yi grass would only need to spread the news for a few days and we would definitely be able to obtain it. Moreover, this old man has also sent a message to 10,000 Flower Valley, 100 Herb Gate and other sects. However, just last night, that senior entrusted someone with a message, asking this old man to give the Ling Yi grass to the person who came today. You say, isn't this a little too rushed? This old man had no choice but to come here early this morning, to see if there was any. Their situation is the same as mine. They do not have these. You also participated last time. They were not particularly interested in Ling Yi grass." Who knew? This old man would actually meet nephew Xiao. This is nephew Zhao's fate, and also this old man's fate. Chang Fian said as he flipped his hand and took out a strange-looking jade pendant and handed it to Xiaohua. "What is this?" Xiaohua was slightly stunned. He took it and looked at it carefully. It did not seem to be anything strange. "This is that senior's keepsake." Chang Fian's eyes shone with a strange light. He said, "This old man originally wanted to keep it, but nephew Xiao is so honest that this old man blushed with shame. This item, don't." Xiaohua heard this and did not wait for Chang Fian to finish speaking. He immediately returned the jade pendant and said anxiously, "This junior does not want to take advantage of others' difficulties. Since senior has a use for this item, how can this junior take it?" Chang Fian had a look of understanding. He shook his head and said, "Since this old man has already given it away, I will definitely not take it back. Listen well." Soon after, Chang Fian actually transmitted a name to Xiaohua and said, "This is this senior's keepsake. A senior at the peak of the gold core realm promised. Nephew Xiao, you must not disappoint him. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian.com to vote for it." Chapter 1799. When Xiaohua heard that person's name, he was clearly a bit surprised. His knowledge of the cultivators on the Dawn Rain continent was only from the records in the Imperial Thunder Sect's library. He had also heard of the name of this Golden Core Stage cultivator. Since it was a favor from a Golden Core Stage cultivator, then it definitely couldn't be wrong. Thinking about the benefits that Zhen Qing gave Xiaohua, not only was it a secret method to refine magic treasures, it was also the comprehension of condensing core. This was something that could never be exchanged with spirit stones. Since it's like this, Junior will also learn from Senior and not be pretentious. Xiaohua looked at the jade pendant. This was an unexpected surprise. He smiled and said to Chang Fian, Junior originally wanted to ask Senior for some information. Who knew? Hee, this is nephew Zhao's fate. Chang Fian nodded. After Xiaohua carefully put away the jade pendant, Chang Fian said again, what information does nephew Xiao want to know? If it's that Meng country's cultivator family, this old man won't tell you. I don't dare. Xiaohua smiled and said, Junior only wanted to ask about the pill formulas for Elaine pill and Huayuan pill, where can they be found? Chang Fian's face was slightly stunned. He glanced at Xiaohua and smiled. Pill formulas naturally have to come from sects that have pill formulas. Just now, this old man seemed to have mentioned a certain sect. If nephew Xiao is interested, you can go there and take a look. However, these pill formulas can't be known to foundation establishment stage cultivators. Nephew Xiao must be careful. Xiaohua thought for a moment and immediately understood what Chang Fian was talking about. He smiled and said, Junior understands. Many thanks, Senior. Us cultivators must know our limits and know when to advance and retreat. When our cultivation is shallow, we must not do things that exceed our cultivation. Chang Fian reminded. Oh right, Senior Chang. Last time, the sword cultivator caused a huge ruckus during the auction. Last time, Senior wanted to look for traces of the flying sword. Just now, you said that you didn't find the flying sword and instead looked for the sword cultivator's whereabouts. What about the flying sword? Xiaohua asked again. If Senior has any taboo, then just treat it as Junior never asked. What taboo can there be? Chang Fian smiled and said, a year later, the flying sword you saw in the auction was finally bought by Duan Yuming, a sword cultivator from Huan country, with enough spirit stones. Other than them, no one else in the Dao sect would dare to bring this calamity upon themselves. In order to gather enough spirit stones, these two sword cultivators had done many things. Although they did not dare to provoke the magnificent sect of the country of Shi, they did not care about the ordinary Dao sects. As a result, many cultivators are already complaining. Also, although I didn't manage to find the cultivator who came to my Weeping Moon City to sell his flying sword, I heard from one of the cultivators that he saw a sword cultivator flying towards the sword mound with his own eyes. And that sword cultivator is also a female cultivator. If I'm not mistaken, she's either Zhang Yutong or Zhang Yuha. Sword tomb? Xiaohua immediately thought of Yutong, thought of Huanhua sect, and thought to himself, could it be? Huanhua sect is related to the disappearance of the sword Xiu? But on second thought, Zhang Yutong and Zhang Yuha had already been missing for several years. There was no need for Huanhua sect to go to the sword mound at this time. They might not be related to the missing sword Xiu. So he smiled and said, the sword mound is between Huan country and Shi country. It's normal for the sword Xiu to return from the direction of the sword mound, right? And it's normal. That's why it proves that the disappearance of the sword Xiu has nothing to do with the Dao sect of Shi country. Chang Fian smiled and said, they insisted on going through the sword mound. That place is extremely dangerous. Who knows where they died? But the problem is, the one who flew to the sword mound was a sword cultivator, not two. Xiaohua smiled bitterly and said, moreover, the sword cultivator's flying sword came to Weeping Moon City. That's right. Chang Fian shook his head. It's enough for me to find this piece of information. The city lord will have to consider the future matters. It's already good that I can do this for the city lord's good friend. At this point, Chang Fian stood up and said, Nephew Xiao, I have to go back early. The appointment with that person is at noon. It's about time now. In the future, when you come to Weeping Moon City, you must come and see me. Every time you come, you bring me good luck. Of course. Xiaohua stood up to send him off. Chang Fian gave Xiao Hua a communication talisman and told him where he lived before leaving. Xiao Hua sent Chang Fian off and sat in the quiet room for a while. He smiled and said, Senior Chang has already said clearly that the clear flower pills pill formula is in the sect he mentioned just now. There's no need to think about the 100 Herbs sect. It must be in the 10,000 Flowers Valley. Moreover, it must be a cultivator above the foundation establishment stage. I'll slowly search for it in the future. There's still some time before I reach the foundation establishment stage. After that, Xiaohua left the quiet room and paid the spirit stones. He didn't stay in Weeping Moon City and went to the teleportation formation in Weeping Moon City. He prepared to teleport to a town closer to the Imperial Thunder sect. Weeping Moon City was relatively remote and the teleportation formation was different from other towns. There were actually 3 teleportation formations. However, the distance of each teleportation formation was different. Xiaohua wanted to go to the Imperial Thunder sect in the south, so the teleportation formation he used was the one closest to the center. At the same time, because Weeping Moon City was surrounded by vast lands, there were many people using the teleportation formation. Xiaohua didn't make an appointment like he did when he used the teleportation formation. He even waited in line to enter the teleportation formation's secret room. However, just before Xiaohua entered the secret room, a very familiar face suddenly flashed in front of a teleportation formation's secret room on the left. Matched? Xiaohua was stunned and thought to himself. He quickly scanned the room with his divine sense. However, this courtyard and the secret room were both protected by a teleportation formation. His divine sense was isolated. Fellow Taoist, please. The guard in the teleportation formation's secret room reminded him. Wait a moment. I just saw an old friend. I'll go and take a look. Xiaohua quickly cupped his hands and signaled the cultivator behind him to go first. He quickly ran to the teleportation formation on the side. Unfortunately, when he ran to the teleportation formation's secret room, the door of the secret room was already closed. He had already entered the teleportation formation. This. Xiaohua pondered for a moment. He cupped his hands and said to the cultivator in front of the secret room, Fellow Taoist, may I ask where this teleportation formation leads to? The cultivator immediately looked at Xiaohua with vigilance. Oh, it's like this. Just now, an old friend of I entered the teleportation formation. I haven't seen him for several years. Now that I've chased after him, he has already entered. I want to chase after him and take a look. Xiaohua didn't hide anything and said with a smile. So it's like this. The cultivator looked at the teleportation formation and then looked at the cultivators around him. He said, the Weeping Moon City's teleportation formation is different from the other two. It teleports to the northeast of the country of Xi. The specific town isn't fixed. I should be going to a different place from the previous ones. Otherwise, I would have already been teleported there. I wouldn't be talking to fellow Taoist here. As for where the previous fellow Taoist was teleported to, if fellow Taoist wants to know, you can ask the guards of the teleportation formation. Presumably, fellow Taoist also knows, but they definitely won't tell you. The cultivator didn't speak, but when he spoke, he seemed to have no clue. Xiaohua quickly cupped his hands and said with a smile, Many thanks fellow Taoist, many thanks fellow Taoist. Then, he returned to his own teleportation formation. He naturally knew that the guards wouldn't tell him, so he went to ask. I wonder how Tsongyi is now? Xiaohua used the Weeping Moon City's teleportation formation. First, he was teleported to a remote town. Then he continued to teleport. When he came out of the last teleportation formation and used the Bright Thunder escape to fly to the Imperial Thunder sect, he was still thinking, where is he cultivating? What about Fu Zhu and Fu Ba? Are they still with Tsongyi? Alas, this Fu Yunhua is really hateful. He clearly knows that they are brother and sister, but he still secretly matchmade them. This kind of sinister heart is really despicable. If I have time one day, I'll definitely go and tidy up Mount Jin. And I'd better look for Tsongyi first. I still have the refining method of his family's ancestral talisman. If Tsongyi wants to establish his own sect, he won't be lacking these things. Xiaohua thought of the soul accumulating talisman and other talismans, as well as some cultivation methods. He thought of the time he spent with Tsong Yi in Mount Jinhua. He thought of Tsong Yi's revenge, Fu Zhu and Fu Ba's beauty, and even Fu Ba's deep feelings for Tsong Yi. Why are there so many 12th layer qi refining cultivators? Just as Xiaohua was thinking about this, the divine sense he released suddenly detected some unusual movements in front of him. He quickly slowed down and flew at a normal speed. Not long after, he saw several disciples at the peak of the 12th layer of the qi refining realm, talking and laughing as they flew towards him. When the disciples saw Xiaohua, they were first vigilant, then immediately shocked. One of the disciples with a delicate face and a slightly younger age stepped forward and cupped his hands. "Junior martial brother, why did you come back after just leaving the mountain? Could it be that there's an unforeseen event ahead?" "Just leaving the mountain?" Xiaohua rubbed his nose and looked at these disciples with a puzzled expression. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Fellow Taoists, are you disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect? I just returned from my foundation establishment training." "Of course we are." The young disciple's mouth was quick, and he seemed to be very excited. He didn't wait for Xiaohua to finish speaking before continuing. When he heard Xiaohua's words, the disciple suddenly understood. He put on a surprised expression and even pointed at Xiaohua very impolitely. Senior martial brother isn't a disciple from this foundation establishment training. Junior martial brother Jianghu greets senior martial brother." After saying that, Jianghu realized he was being inappropriate and quickly cupped his hands in salute. The other disciples also understood and stepped forward to salute. However, this salute was only superficial. Their eyes were filled with excitement and longing, but there was also a hint of disdain and even contempt. "Alas, it's time for another year of training." Xiaohua sighed with emotion. Looking at these ambitious junior martial brothers and thinking about the 200 or so disciples from the various sects who died in Mingxue, he didn't put their expressions in his eyes. He only cupped his hands in salute and said with a smile, "Junior martial brothers, foundation establishment is indeed important, but there must be limits. Your life is the most important. I wish you all success in foundation establishment." Chapter 1800. Thank you for your kind words, senior brother. We will definitely enter the foundation establishment realm. Please wait for our good news at the Thunderclap Peak. Jianghu looked at the disciples beside him and cupped his fists. At this moment, a red voice transmission talisman flew out from behind Jianghu and rushed towards Xiaohua. Who sent I a voice transmission talisman? Xiaohua was stunned. This isn't the place where voice transmission talismans can reach from the Imperial Lightning sect, right? When Xiaohua grabbed the voice transmission talisman and scanned it with his divine sense, he understood what was going on. Joy appeared on his face and he clapped his hands without hesitation and took out a voice transmission talisman. However, under the influence of his magic power, the voice transmission talisman flew one round in the air and landed in Xiaohua's hands. It didn't travel far. "Sigh, look at me, I made a mistake." Xiaohua slapped his forehead and took out a sound-transmitting talisman that he refined himself. Under the stimulation of his magic power, the sound-transmitting talisman whistled through the air and flashed with the sound of lightning as it flew towards the Imperial Thunder sect. Seeing Xiaohua use the lightning voice transmission technique, Jianghu and the others no longer doubted Xiaohua's identity as a disciple of the Imperial Lightning sect. Xiaohua looked at them and cupped his fists. "I haven't returned for many years. My senior brother actually still remembers I and sent a voice transmission talisman to me today. Yes, I think this senior brother came out to train again." Another disciple laughed. "Senior brother, you should go back and rest early. When you have the chance, you can come out to train again. We will take our leave." After saying that, Jianghu and the others flew away. When they were far away, the disciple let out a laugh and said, "This senior brother is really interesting. He only returned after 5 years and he still hasn't reached the foundation establishment stage yet. He doesn't feel embarrassed? If it was the last time, it would be better. Who knows, It might be the time before that, or the time before that. That's right, his senior brother also came out to train this time. He has no hope of coming out this time. Jianghu frowned and said, "Something's not right." "What's wrong? Why did this senior brother send 2 voice transmission talismans? The first one didn't succeed and the second one only succeeded. Think about it, the senior brother who first mentioned this senior brother seems to still be at the thunderclap peak of the Imperial Thunder sect, right? Could it be that when he sent out the second message, his senior martial brother had already reached the range of the sound transmission talisman? What's so strange about that? How could the sound-transmitting talismans refined by aura-refining disciples be the same as those refined by foundation-building seniors and golden core seniors? The second sound-transmitting talisman that this disciple sent out must have been refined by the seniors. But, since this senior martial brother was able to obtain the sound-transmitting talisman refined by the seniors, then he must be a disciple favored by the seniors. His aptitude is unquestionable. Why? Hasn't he reached foundation establishment? What does it have to do with us whether he reaches the foundation establishment stage or not? I've talked to him for a long time, but he didn't even dare to tell me his name. I'm afraid he's ashamed because he hasn't reached foundation establishment yet. I don't want to learn from him. That's right. When we go, we have to be discreet. If nothing unexpected happens, we'll definitely reach foundation establishment after obtaining that item. As they spoke, Jianghu and the others' eyes burned with passion. Their flying speed increased by several degrees. What was the difference between this situation and 5 years ago when Sun Shu, Kun Fian, and Qian Diheng had just left the Imperial Thunder sect? Back in Sun Lei Palace, the lightning sound transmitting talisman that Qian Diheng unintentionally sent out actually turned into a scarlet ray of light. It flashed with faint lightning as it rushed out of the quiet room. Qian Diheng and the other 2 revealed strange expressions. Damn it, could it be that Xiaohua didn't die? Qian Diheng cried out in astonishment. Isn't it obvious? If Xiaohua died, how could this sound-transmitting talisman fly out? Sun Shu said with a smile. Xue Xue's snow-white face unexpectedly didn't have the slightest trace of blood. Without thinking, she sent out another sound-transmitting talisman. Like before, that sound-transmitting talisman circled in the air before falling down. Xue Xue's face was full of confusion. Junior martial sister, that sound-transmitting talisman of yours is an ordinary sound-transmitting talisman. The lightning sound-transmitting talisman in Junior Martial Brother Qian's hand was personally refined by Junior Martial Brother Xiao, so it's a bit different. Sun Shu immediately understood and promptly explained. Who cares about the difference? Let's hurry out and go to the mountain gate to welcome that guy. Qian Diheng shouted. However, just as the 3 of them left the quiet room, they ran into a 10th layer Qi refining disciple. That disciple was very happy to see Sun Shu and the others. He smiled and said, Senior Martial Sister Sun, Senior Martial Sister Xue, Senior Martial Sister Yuan Buyun, Senior Martial Sister Min Gumin, and Senior Martial Sister Wang Yunxiao have come to visit. Please hurry over. Motherfucker, are these 2 things done yet? Qian Diheng gnashed his teeth and said, they come to visit every few days. This kind of hypocrisy, do they still want people to live? Then he stomped his feet and cursed, this damned heaven, how can it be so unfair? How can these 2 messy things obtain a fortuitous opportunity? Can they just go out and train casually and reach foundation establishment? I've worked so hard, how come I can't even see a trace of foundation establishment? The disciple who sent the message covered his mouth with his hand and hurriedly ran away. No matter what, there's still foundation establishment seniors. Sun Shu shook her head slightly. Fortunately, just as Sun Shu and the others left, they ran into Wang Yunxiao and the others who were waiting for them. Sun Shu and the others bowed and said, Greetings, 3 seniors. Wang Yunxiao hurriedly flicked his sleeve and said in a panic, You and I were originally fellow disciples. We were only lucky enough to take half a step forward. In the future, when the other senior martial brothers catch up, we'll still have to call each other brothers. Don't mention the word senior. Xue Xue looked at Minggu and sneered. We're Qi refining disciples. How can we not call Foundation Establishment seniors senior? May I know why you three seniors are here? If there's nothing important, Junior still has things to do outside. Hee hee, it's nothing. We just heard that Junior Martial Sisters' cultivation has improved again. Although we can't go out to train now, Foundation Establishment is sooner or later, so we came to visit. Minggu, who was extremely conceited after reaching Foundation Establishment, answered confidently. Oh, in that case, there's no need for Senior Min to worry. Xue Xue said bluntly, Junior has never worried about Foundation Establishment. Senior, please go back. Junior Martial Sister Sun, where are you going? Does Martial Uncle Sun have something to tell us? Yuan Bo asked with a smile. It's nothing. It's just that Xiaohua is coming back. We're going to welcome him. Without waiting for Sun Shu to speak, Qian Diheng said coldly. Hearing the two words Xiaohua, Wang Yunxiao and the others were startled and even happy. What? Xiaohua? He actually didn't die? He's coming back today? Senior's age doesn't seem to have reached the age of senility. Qian Diheng sneered. Why can't you hear Junior's words? Xiaohua is coming back today. We're going to welcome him at the mountain gate. Ha, great. We all joined the Imperial Thunder sect at the same time. We should also go welcome him. Wang Yunxiao clapped and laughed. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote. Chapter 1801. Xiaohua is only an aura refining disciple. He doesn't dare to trouble a Foundation Establishment senior. Xue Xue said indifferently. Her indifference and the faint meaning of my Xiaohua entered Minji's ears. His heart was filled with hatred. Of course not. Maybe junior brother Xiao is already a Foundation Establishment cultivator. We can go and congratulate him. Yuan Bo said with a sinister smile. How could there be a trace of joy in his voice? Then please go ahead. Qian Diheng sneered and took the lead to fly towards the thunder-controlling sect. At this time, on the mountain path of the thunder-controlling sect, just like 5 years ago, many 12th-layer aura refining disciples came out to gain experience. Qian Diheng and the others were familiar with some, but there were also many unfamiliar faces. When they saw Sun Shu and the others standing next to the pavilion, they were curious and looked over from time to time. Xue Xue and the others were looking at the mountain path in the distance, waiting for Xiaohua's figure to appear on the mountain path. Wang Yunxiao and the other two also stood at the side of the guest pavilion. They looked at each other, and in their hearts, there was an indescribable feeling. They all thought that Xiaohua had died in the Foundation Establishment experiential learning 5 years ago. They didn't expect that he would suddenly appear now. But when they thought about the fact that Xiaohua had already built his foundation, they wanted to show off and see if Xiaohua had really built his foundation. Of course, they also understood that since Xiaohua had failed to build his foundation once, the possibility of him building his foundation again in these 5 years was really too small. This was also the main reason they came here to wait. However, after waiting for more than half a day, the number of aura refining disciples who came to visit Qian Diheng made the three of them restless, but they still didn't see Xiaohua return. While the three of them were hesitating, a sound-transmitting talisman flew back and landed in front of Qian Diheng. Qian Diheng grabbed it and laughed. Ha! Xiaohua is really alive. He's rushing back. Good. Sun Shu smiled like a flower. Xue Xue was also jubilant. She was even more charming and moving. Xiaohua, has he built his foundation? Minggu asked tentatively, jealousy rising in his heart. Who knows? Qian Diheng said unhappily. Junior and the others were waiting for junior brother. We never thought we were waiting for a Foundation Establishment senior. Forget it. Wang Yunxiao smiled and said, since you all have such a deep brotherly relationship, we won't disturb you here. After junior brother Xiao returns, we'll go to the Myriad Thunder Valley to visit again. Seniors, take care. We aura refinement cultivators won't be seeing you off. Qian Diheng looked at the backs of Wang Yunxiao and the others as they walked back. He screamed and pretended to salute. Then, he looked at the end of the mountain path and frowned. Xiaohua, this guy, his flying speed is very fast. Why hasn't he arrived yet? Could it be that he encountered something again? Hearing Qian Diheng's words, Xue Xue and Sun Shu's hearts were filled with anxiety. They had no one to rely on, so they could only watch helplessly. Next, Xiaohua utilized his flight technique to fly all the way back to Lightning Controlling Sect. Along the way, he encountered a good number of disciples from Lightning Controlling Sect. However, Xiaohua did not stop there. He simply cupped his fists to greet them. Seeing that he was a young cultivator with the same cultivation base as them, the disciples from Lightning Controlling Sect assumed that he was their junior brother. It would appear that they did not care about him. The doubts in their hearts were insignificant compared to the excitement and apprehension they felt from going out for training. Thus, they simply nodded. However, this kind of flight delayed Xiaohua's journey. It was not until dusk that he arrived at Mount Lema. The scorched yellow soil of Mount Lema looked abnormally bloody under the afterglow of the setting sun. It gave birth to a feeling of horror. At this time, on the mountain range, there were still a few disciples at the peak of the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm walking down the mountain path. However, on the mountain path near the reception pavilion, 1 male and 2 female disciples were also at the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm. They raised their necks and kept looking down the mountain. They were not in a hurry to go down the mountain. This attracted the attention of many disciples who were going out for training. "Damn it, what are you looking at?" Qian Diheng glanced at them for the nth time and said angrily, "I am here waiting for someone. I have no intention of going out for training. If you look at me again, I will ask your master to send you back to the mountain right now." The disciple who was scolded was furious at first, but after hearing Qian Diheng's words, he immediately shrank his neck and did not dare to speak. He quickly walked down the mountain. Naturally, the disciples who heard him did not dare to look again. However, the disciples who went down the mountain later still wanted to look. "Damn it, this junior brother Xiao, what's wrong with him? It has been a long time since he sent the message. Why hasn't he come back yet?" Qian Diheng was impatient. According to his flying technique, he should be back by noon. Could it be that something happened to him on the way? Junior brother Qian. Seeing Qian Diheng saying the same thing many times, Sun Shu glared at Qian Diheng and scolded. "He is already in the territory of my Imperial Thunder Sect. What other problems can there be? Senior sister Sun, don't forget the last time we went out for training. We encountered something as soon as we left Mount Lema." Qian Diheng retorted. With so many disciples going out for training, Xiaohua's flying speed is very slow. Xue Xue's snow-white face was tinged with a hint of red. Her eyes were filled with surprise, expectation, longing, and a touch of sorrow. Sun Shu looked at Xue Xue and was very surprised. After they saw that Qian Diheng's message was strange, they immediately flew out of Sun Lei Palace with the message. The message naturally flew away, but they could only stop at Mount Lema. Xue Xue's expression was beyond her expectations. Needless to say, surprise and expectation were the same as her heart. However, she could not figure out that trace of sorrow. However, looking at Xue Xue's natural longing, Sun Shu's heart could not help but feel sour. It was actually a kind of narcissism and an unspeakable jealousy. This guy really came back. When Qian Diheng anxiously wanted to send another summoning talisman, he suddenly saw Xiaohua's thin and tall figure going up the mountain path. Qian Diheng immediately jumped up from the ground and rushed down. Sun Shu was also overjoyed. Just as she was about to rush down, she saw Xue Xue biting her cherry lips with her pearly white teeth and clenching her fists. She slowly walked down the mountain path. As long as she slowed down, that kind of uncontrollable joy made Sun Shu tremble slightly. "Junior brother?" Qian Diheng rushed forward and opened his arms to hug Xiaohua. This was an extremely normal action. During the experiential learning, Qian Diheng did not know how many times he had hugged Xiaohua. However, when Qian Diheng opened his arms, Xiaohua frowned. Earlier in the workshop, the Gold Core practitioner Xie Anqian raised her hand and patted Xiaohua's shoulder. It was not that Xiaohua did not want to dodge, but Xie Anqian was a Gold Core practitioner. Xiaohua did not dare to dodge, and also knew that there was no need to. When he met Chang Fian on the streets of Weeping Moon City, Chang Fian also patted Xiaohua like an elder. That was definitely his expression of wild joy when he saw Xiaohua, just like when he saw Ling Yizhao. Xiaohua dodged without a trace. And now, Qianding, seeing Xiaohua's frown, Qianding instantly thought of Kuan Fei Yan. Didn't Kuan Fei Yan take advantage of Xiaohua's inattention to pat him? Qianding's body stiffened first. That joy had long been reduced by 30%. His arms just stopped there, rather awkward. Ha! At this time, Xiaohua laughed loudly. His brows relaxed, and he took the initiative to hug Qianding's shoulder. His hands patted his back, and he said, "Senior brother, how come it's been 5 years again? You still haven't built your foundation?" Immediately, a warm current rushed into Qianding's eyes. Qianding's eyes were filled with tears. His hands also firmly hugged Xiaohua's still thin shoulders, and he patted him hard. He said, "You haven't even built your foundation, how can I dare to walk in front of you?" His voice was almost choked with sobs. Xiaohua's heart was warm, and an indescribable joy filled his heart. When Qianding released Xiaohua, Shui and Sun Shu also walked in front of him. Sun Shu pressed his lips, which were already pale. Sun Shu's eyes were abnormally sparkling and translucent. Facing the afterglow of the setting sun, it could actually reflect a fine 5 colors. Sun Shu cupped his hands, his spotlessly white jade-like arms slightly trembling. "Junior brother Xiao, congratulations on your return." Sun Shu's words were out of her own expectations. Before she could finish, tears flowed out. Sun Shu hurriedly raised her sleeve to cover it up, and hid to the side. Shui stood beside Sun Shu. Since coming down from the mountain path, her gaze had been fixed on Xiaohua's face, and she didn't even move away. At this time, she looked straight into Xiaohua's eyes, and didn't say a word. "Shui, I'm back." Xiaohua never thought that his meeting with Shui would be so awkward, and his heart was slightly weak. "You still know to come back." Shui's words were out of Xiaohua's expectations. But these words were also filled with hidden bitterness, longing, and incomparable concern. Xiaohua didn't know what to say. Shui just said one word, and her whole body flew, and like a swallow entering its nest, she threw herself into Xiaohua's arms. Her warm body hugged Xiaohua tightly, and Xiaohua's phoenix body that had been tempered for a long time actually couldn't breathe. Sigh. Xiaohua sighed in his heart, and a kind of guilt grew in his heart. He opened his arms and also tightly hugged Shui's delicate body. For a moment, the entire mountain path was silent, and only the sound of the wind could be heard. The afterglow accompanied the two people, accompanied by the joy of reuniting after a long time. "Granny!" Qianding sniffed, and looked to the side. Seeing that there were still some disciples looking curiously on the mountain path, he angrily said, "Haven't you seen martial brothers after a long time? Haven't you seen dual cultivation partners being intimate? Get lost, hurry down the mountain and go build your foundation." "Xiaohua!" Shui buried her face in Xiaohua's chest, and incomparable joy gushed out from her heart. But after the joy, there was a kind of sadness. The tears of joy that gushed out of Xiaohua's Taoist robe were wet, and at this moment, the sad tears gushed out like water from a broken dam. It was as if the 6 years of worry and the 5 years of grief were all vented out. Very quickly, Xiaohua's chest was drenched in sweat. Suddenly, Shui raised her neck and bit Xiaohua's neck, and that strength was extremely fierce. Xiaohua was stunned, and hurriedly cried out in pain, "Shui, the pain is killing your husband." Chapter 1802. Who asked you to come back so late? Who asked you not to send a message? Who asked you to woo? Shui's face was red and hot as she gnashed her teeth. But before she could finish, Xiaohua lowered his head and kissed Shui's lips. Shui stammered and could no longer speak. Her body struggled for a moment, but soon after, she complied with Xiaohua. Seeing this, Sun Shu bit her cherry lips and pulled Qianding, who was berating the surrounding disciples, to walk up the mountain path. This guy. Qian Diheng's face was full of envy. He smacked his lips and followed Sun Shu. Xue Xue kissed Xiaohua for a moment and suddenly realized something. She wanted to push Xiaohua away and said sternly, "Xiaohua, who have you been hanging out with these past few years?" Xiaohua was stunned. Soon after, he understood that Xue Xue had felt the intimacy between him and Fairy Hongxia from his kiss. He sighed in his heart that female cultivators were sensitive. He exerted force to prevent Xue Xue from leaving his embrace and said in a low voice, "Who can I be with? You only need to think about it to know." Xue Xue was ashamed and angry. But looking at Xiaohua's calm eyes and calm expression, she said almost without thinking, "What? You are actually together with Fairy Hongxia?" Xiaohua looked up and transmitted his voice, "Xue Xue, this matter cannot be said lightly. I will explain it to you later." Xue Xue's heart lightened, but her face immediately turned pale again. She forced a smile and said, "I know. Since it is with Sister Hongxia, what can I complain about? It's just that you are too cruel. In these 5 years, did you not think of me at all? Did you not think of telling me? It's all my fault." Xiaohua said in a low voice, "I really can't send a message. However, Fairy Hongxia already knows about your matter." "Ah? You told her?" Xue Xue's face immediately revealed a kind of shyness and surprise. She even asked with some expectation, "Sister, what did she say?" She is naturally your sister." Xiaohua smiled and kissed Xue Xue's red lips again. Xue Xue's body immediately heated up. Her extremely strong response actually made Xiaohua a little restless. However, this passionate kiss only lasted for a moment before Xue Xue came to her senses and bit down on Xiaohua's teeth. Ouch! Xiaohua could not help but cry out in pain. "What have you been doing with Fairy Hongxia for the past 5 years?" Xue Xue spoke softly before sending a voice transmission. Xiaohua's smile became even wider. He quietly pinched Xue Xue's waist and said in a low voice, "Naturally, we will do it together in the future." "You bastard!" Xue Xue was abnormally bashful, her hands similarly pinching Xiaohua's waist. Her action was no different from Fairy Hongxia's. However, at the same time that Xue Xue was abnormally shy, that unconcealable worry still loomed in Xue Xue's eyes. After a long while, Xiaohua held Xue Xue's hand and slowly walked up the mountain path. "The sunset is so beautiful. Senior Sun, we still have to appreciate it." When Qian Diheng saw Xiaohua and Xue Xue coming up, he coughed twice and pretended to admire the scenery. He raised his eyes and looked at the rosy clouds in the west. Senior brother Qian, it's been a few years since we last met. You're still as elegant as ever. Junior brother really admires you." Xiaohua did not want to let go of Xue Xue's hand, but there were still Qi refining disciples coming down the mountain and looking at Xue Xue and Xiaohua. Even though Xue Xue was straightforward, she could not help but pull her hand out. Xiaohua had no choice but to let go and immediately cupped his hands. "I admire my ass." Qian Diheng immediately revealed his true nature. He scolded with a smile, "I don't know where you hid to cultivate for 5 years. If you knew, you would have come back long ago." Junior brother's experience was really dangerous. There were many secrets of others. Please allow junior brother to choose his words. Perhaps in the future, we will have a chance to talk about it." Xiaohua said with a smile. Sun Shu quickly waved her hand and said, "No need to talk about it, no need to talk about it. We are already happy that junior brother Xiao can come back safely. Moreover, junior brother encountered such a disaster, I also have some responsibility." Senior Sun, that matter was definitely not what senior sister wanted. Junior brother is not blind, how could he not see it? Xiaohua also said with a smile, "Let's not talk about that matter." That's right," Qian Diheng said dejectedly, "although we are determined to seek justice for junior brother Xiao, but things are contrary to our wishes." Xiaohua smiled but did not say anything. Back in the Valley of Ice, Fairy Hongxia had already analyzed this matter thoroughly. Unless Kuan-Fian was reborn, unless Kuan-Fian used the soul-searching technique on Kuan-Fian, there would definitely be no results. Qian Diheng's answer was also not out of their expectations. Alright. Qian Diheng suddenly remembered something happy. His previous dejection was swept away and he said with a smile, "Last time, although we did not build foundation, it was not that we did not gain anything." "What did you gain?" Xiao Hua was stunned. "You don't need to ask us about this. Just ask Xue Xue," Sun Shu said with a smile. Xiao Hua could only look at Xue Xue, who was silently beside him. She was so happy that her soul seemed to have left her body. Xue Xue took out her storage pouch and handed it over. She said with a smile, "This is your harvest from last time." Senior Sun and senior brother Qian did not want to take it alone and insisted on leaving your share with me. "Is that so?" Xiao Hua was still puzzled. He could not think of what great harvest he, Sun Shu, and the others had from last time's training. It was actually worth it for Xue Xue to take it. When Xiao Hua opened the storage pouch and scanned it with his divine sense, his face changed greatly. "This? Where did it come from?" So much." He. Qian Diheng liked to see Xiao Hua's surprise and said in a low voice, "Did junior brother Xiao forget?" The 3 sect's disciples blocking Mingxi were single-handedly broken through by junior brother Xiao. "Oh, I understand." Xiao Hua was enlightened. The expression on his face was extremely strange. He sighed and said, So it was theirs." "Yes, just right." Sun Shu nodded and said, "The rule of our Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples is that if it does not involve grudges between sects, all magic tools, spirit stones, pills and other things belong to the disciples. There is no need to report to the sect. If it involves grudges between sects, the disciples have the right to keep 60% of all the items." "Here is that 60%. Looking at the storage pouch in his hand and the countless spirit stones and pills in it, Xiao Hua's heart surged with a burst of warmth and incomparable confidence. His heart that was hurt by Kun Fian had a trace of comfort. "I'm afraid this is everything," Xiao Hua said with a smile. "It's not just junior brother's 30%. He, that's not it." Qian Diheng said with a smile, "What we needed, we naturally took, especially the magic tools and other things. Moreover, cultivation methods and other things have to be handed over to the sect. Some of the spirit stones and pills here were exchanged for cultivation methods and other things. That's still a lot more than junior brother's 30%. Let's divide it equally between the 3 of us." Xiao Hua waved his hand and was about to hand over the storage pouch. Chapter 1803. Seeing Xiao Hua like this, Qian Diheng's expression immediately changed. He angrily said, "Xiao Hua, you underestimate me too much. Although my cultivation isn't as deep as yours, I'm not much inferior to you in terms of reasoning. Last time, I relied on you to support me, and in the end, you were the one who fell into the wind tunnel of the netherworld wind. If I split it with you, wouldn't I also have to split my face equally? Do you still want me to see you in the future?" Soon after, he said with a sinister smile, "If you really don't want to see me in the future, then let's split this thing today." As he spoke, he made a gesture of reaching for the storage bag. "Ah, you bastard, where did you learn from me? I feel like you're a foundation establishment senior." Xiao Hua laughed loudly. He pulled back his hand and put the storage bag into his bosom. Sun Shu didn't say anything. Looking at the two, her eyes were filled with warmth. "I also forgot." Xiao Hua smiled. He also patted his forehead and said, "I still haven't had the chance to give you the thing I got from the netherworld wind. I hope it's not too late now." "What else do you have?" Qian Diheng was stunned and turned to look at Sun Shu. Sun Shu was naturally also surprised. When Xiao Hua mysteriously handed the Zhongyao milk to the two seemed to have a premonition and asked nervously almost at the same time, "This?" Xiao Hua gave the jade bottle to the two and said with a smile, "Take a look for yourself." "Ah." Qian Diheng opened the jade bottle and was the first to jump up. "Zhong." But just as he said it, he felt that something was wrong. He hurriedly stuffed it into his storage bag. While his body was still in the air, he shouted, "Xiao Hua, you bastard, really? How do you want me to AI? How do I say this? Qian Diheng was so happy that he couldn't say a complete sentence. He even stuttered a little. Anyone who suddenly saw something that they had already given up 5 years ago would be like this. On the other hand, Sun Shu was different. She didn't put the jade bottle into her storage pouch. Instead, she glanced at Xue Xue beside Xiaohua, sighed, and handed the jade bottle back. She shook her head and said, "Xiaohua, if this thing was taken out in the dark, I would naturally accept it without hesitation. But, for you to take it out now, I'm afraid that you've risked your life in exchange for it. It's already gone beyond our agreement. I cannot accept it. You should use it yourself, or give it to junior sister Xue." There was some reluctance in Sun Shu's eyes, but his expression was resolute. Xiaohua stared at the jade bottle in Sun Shu's hand. It seemed that Sun Shu had not only given him Zhong Yao's milk, but also Sun Shu's sincerity. Xiaohua smiled as he clapped his hands again, taking out another jade bottle, handing it over to Xue Xue, saying with a smile, "This thing originally belonged to Kuan Fian. This little brother originally wanted to secretly give it to Xue Xue. Look at you all, forcing this little brother to give it to her face. I'm really speechless." As he spoke, he actually rubbed his nose with a bitter look on his face. You should have said so earlier," Sun Shu snorted, rolling his eyes at Xiaohua strangely. With a flip of his hand, the jade bottle immediately disappeared. "Xiaohua, what is this?" Xue Xue took the jade bottle, rather puzzled, and asked in a low voice. Xiaohua put his index finger to his mouth and said in a low voice, "Keep this thing well. Go back and secretly ask senior sister Xue how to use it. Don't even mention a word to others." Really? Xue Xue was extremely intelligent. How could she not know? She immediately kept the jade bottle well, and asked in a very pleasantly surprised manner. "Hee, that's right." Sun Shu walked in front of Xue Xue and whispered in her ear, "With this thing, junior sister will definitely reach foundation establishment within 5 years. You're so good." Xue Xue sweetly looked at Xiaohua and said, "Don't tell me you didn't keep it for yourself?" Seeing Xiaohua take out 3 drops of Zhong Yao milk at once, Qian Diheng asked in a low voice. Xiaohua blinked and said with a smile, "Am I that kind of person?" "I don't think so." Qian Diheng said with a smile, "You're much more stingy than me. Even if I am, you're not." "Can't you not be so blunt?" Xiaohua replied in a bad mood. Little junior brother?" Just when everyone was feeling warm and comfortable, a familiar voice of Xiaohua suddenly called out in a very pleasantly surprised manner. "Eldest senior brother?" Xiaohua hurriedly turned his head. Of course, at the head of the mountain path, Xiang Yang had just appeared. Looking at Xiaohua's back, an inconceivable expression appeared on his face. "Junior brother Xiao, when did you return to the mountain? Why didn't you send a message to master or elder brother?" Xiang Yang said somewhat reproachfully. Moreover, he kept giving Xiaohua a meaningful glance. Xiaohua was somewhat puzzled, and Xue Xue's face was also somewhat unnatural. She said in a low voice, "Xiaohua, your master?" At this time, a cold voice said again, He hasn't reached foundation establishment after 5 years of experiential learning. Naturally, he doesn't have the face to send a message." "Xiaohua, since you haven't reached foundation establishment yet? Why did you come back?" "Master," Xiaohua was very happy. He didn't care about Xiang Yang's coldness and quickly walked up the mountain path to welcome him. Xue Xue and the others glanced at each other, then followed Xiaohua forward. However, after taking a few steps, Xiaohua's face showed doubt. He saw Xiang Yang walking behind Xiang Yang, but the person behind Xiang Yang wasn't Yan Qinglian or Zhuo Minghui, but a young cultivator. That cultivator had a well-built body, a fair complexion, and an incomparably handsome face. He had a perfectly straight nose, slanted sword-like eyebrows, and a pair of bright and spirited eyes that revealed an indescribable arrogance and incomparable confidence. "This is..." Xiaohua sized up this cultivator, and this cultivator also looked at Xiaohua. Unlike Xiaohua's curiosity, this cultivator's gaze was disdainful, and even somewhat hostile. "Hong Shun, come over and greet me. This is second senior brother Xiaohua. whom Master often talks to you about. Xiang Yang said with a smile, a doting expression on his face. Yes, disciple understands. That cultivator smiled apologetically and said, disciple will definitely take Master's admonition as a warning and cultivate diligently. After this experiential learning, I'll definitely be able to build my foundation. Soon after, that disciple took a few steps forward, cupped his hands and saluted, saying, Junior Di Hongshan greets second senior brother. Seeing that Di Hongshan actually didn't bow, Xiaohua was already displeased in his heart. He stepped forward and returned the salute, saying, I don't dare. How can I, an aura-refining cultivator who hasn't built my foundation for a long time, receive such great courtesy from junior brother Cui? Since you know you don't have any face, then don't come back and disgrace yourself. It's better to cultivate outside the sect. Xiang Yang said coldly, I remember someone saying that he wouldn't come back until he built his foundation. Why did he suddenly go back on his words? Xiaohua felt bitter in his mouth. He didn't seem to have said such a thing, right? Master. Xiang Yang said in a low voice, Junior brother Xiao barely escaped death and came back, and junior brother Cui just so happened to go out for experiential learning. Master should be happy. Happy my ass. Xiang Yang cursed helplessly. One failed to build his foundation and took 50 years to build his foundation. The other failed and didn't build his foundation for 10 years. What's there for me to be happy about? Now I've finally accepted a disciple who's capable enough to build his foundation after cultivating for less than 5 years. Unfortunately, I haven't even left the sect and I've already met someone who failed to build his foundation. Isn't this a bad omen? I already said that I'd leave earlier, but your master's wife insisted on telling me to go here and there. Master, you should be well aware of this disciple's aptitude and cultivation level. I definitely won't be affected by such external things. Di Hongshan said extremely conceitedly. I like your confidence. Xiang Yang said with a beaming smile. Seeing Xiang Yang treat Xiaohua like this, Sun Shu and the others felt sad in their hearts. Now that they had some free time, they hurriedly went forward to pay their respects. Xiang Yang saw Shue's expression become even more gloomy, but he didn't dare to flare up. He only waved his hand and said, although you all failed to build your foundation, you shouldn't be discouraged. You should continue to work hard. After saying a few words, he didn't want to say anything else. He turned his head and scolded Xiaohua. You little bastard, instead of cultivating properly, you only thought about dual cultivation. You provoked Shue and even had wishful thinking about Huan Hua Sec's female disciple. Why don't you take a look at your own cultivation level, master? Xiang Yang looked at Shue. He was afraid that Xiaohua would lose face in front of Shue, so he hurriedly stopped him. Xiang Yang snorted and turned his head to look at the already gloomy sky. Qian Di Heng sneered and bowed. Disciple thanks Martial Uncle Xiang Yang for his teachings. I'll definitely remember it. Finished speaking, he nodded toward Xiaohua and walked away. Sun Shu and Shue also bowed and winked at Xiaohua before also walking away. After waiting for the 3 people to leave, Xiaohua sighed and clapped his hand. He took out a jade bottle from his space and handed it over, saying, Junior Martial Brother Cui, this is the first time we've met. I also don't have anything good. This is a foundation establishment pill. I asked Junior Martial Brother Cui to accept it. I wish Junior Martial Brother Cui success in establishing your foundation. Xiaohua did this out of consideration for the friendship between fellow disciples. He thought of how Zhuo Minghui and Yan Qinglian treated him that year. Unexpectedly, Di Hongshan flicked his sleeve and proudly said, I have enough foundation establishment pills. There's no need to trouble Senior Martial Brother Xiao. Moreover, my Chuanyu Chui family has never accepted favors from others. Although I'm now a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect, I still have to follow the teachings of my ancestors. I asked Senior Martial Brother Xiao to take it back. Xiaohua was stunned. The foundation establishment pill in his hand awkwardly hung in the air. Di Hongshan didn't seem to give Xiaohua any face. He said again, besides, I'm afraid Senior Martial Brother Xiao needs this more. How can I take Senior Martial Brother Xiao's favor? Xiaohua didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed. He withdrew his hand and stored the foundation establishment pill into his space. He said with a smile, that's right. I've made too many mistakes. I'm just an aura refining disciple who failed to build my foundation. How could I possibly have something that junior martial brother Cui values? Seeing Xiaohua take out the foundation establishment pill, Xiaohua helplessly thought of the spiritual plants Xiaohua gave him and the spiritual plants he gave to Xiangyang. Xiaohua's expression eased a bit. However, when he looked at Xiaohua's aura refining cultivation, his expression once again turned gloomy. He waved his hand and said, medicinal pills, spiritual plants, they're all external objects. They have nothing to do with one's realm or cultivation. If you place your heart on those things, you'll forever be an aura refining disciple. You'll never be able to truly become a cultivator. Yes, disciple understands. Xiaohua secretly sighed and bowed in response. Di Hongshan shot a glance at Xiaohua. He also bowed and said, disciple understands. I'll definitely learn from the mistakes of others and not take the detours of others. Chapter 1804. When Di Hongshan went down the mountain, the sky was already dark. According to Xiaohua's thoughts, it would be better to leave the next morning. But thinking about what Helpless said just now, Xiaohua immediately shut his mouth. Maybe this was the auspicious time Helpless was talking about. When Di Hongshan's figure disappeared, Helpless immediately turned around and left without waiting for Xiaohua to speak, completely ignoring Xiaohua. Only Xiangyang's face was filled with helplessness as he looked at Xiaohua with a bitter smile. Greetings, eldest senior brother. Xiaohua bowed again. Sai Xiao. Junior brother Xiao. Xiangyang returned the greeting and said, congratulations on returning safely. Let's go, master's wife and your senior sister miss you very much. Your senior sister has been talking about you many times, saying that you are blessed with good fortune and will definitely be fine. If she sees you return, she will definitely be overjoyed. Then, he said in a low voice, actually, master is also sad, but, senior brother, there's no need to say any more. Xiaohua's expression was very calm as he waved his hand and said, let's hurry and pay respects to master's wife. Good. Xiangyang raised his hand and pulled Xiaohua's hand as they walked up the mountain path. Then, using the flying technique, they flew towards the 10,000 Thunder Valley. On the way, Xiangyang recounted everything that happened in the 10,000 Thunder Valley in the past 6 years. When Xiaohua just left the Imperial Thunder Sect to train, Helpless once again found a disciple with a lightning physique from the disciples recruited by the Zhen Lei Palace. This disciple was Di Hongshan, and also the disciple that Helpless was looking for. And Di Hongshan's aptitude was indeed very good. When he just entered the Imperial Thunder Sect, he was only at the beginning of Qi refining stage 11, but in just 6 years, he actually cultivated to the late stage of Qi refining stage 12, causing Helpless to go wild with joy. Just when Helpless thought that he had picked up a peerless genius, he discovered that not only Di Hongshan, many other disciples from other families also performed so amazingly. And correspondingly, the remaining disciples' performances were barely satisfactory. They were even worse than Xiaohua in Helpless' eyes, and even the disciples with the most ordinary aptitudes in the past were worse. Of course, the grievous news of Xiaohua's death came from Sun Shu and the others during the second year he went out to train. Helpless naturally knew how powerful Ming Shi's wind of the netherworld was. Since Xiaohua had fallen into the wind tunnel, there was no way he could have survived. Helpless naturally hated Kuan Fian for plotting against him, but he was powerless against Kuan Fian's teacher from the Earth Thunder Palace. Even Reverend Lei Meng, without any evidence, could not do anything to Sun Lei Palace, just as Sun Shu had said. On the other hand, the Imperial Thunder Sect was far less interested in Xiaohua's death than the Nether Lotus and Zhenming's death. Rather than saying that they had sent their disciples to investigate Xiaohua's death, it was better to say that they had gone to search for the origins of the Nether Lotus and see if there were any other netherworld treasures. Helplessly, he was originally disappointed in Xiaohua. Seeing that he was unable to redress his grievances and that Di Hongshan's advancement was extremely fast, There was hope for him to snow the 10,000 Thunder Valley. Compared to the Thunder Palace, the thunder-controlling sect was the weakest. Therefore, he placed all his energy on Di Hongshan. He didn't even hesitate to use a precious treasure to exchange for the rainbow epiphyllum to help Di Hongshan stimulate his divine sense. Junior brother Xiao, don't blame junior brother Di. Xiang Yang comforted, when junior brother first came to the Imperial Thunder Sect, you must have heard many rumors about me. You must have been mocked by many senior brothers and martial uncles. Junior brother Chui must have also encountered such a situation. That's why he resented you in his heart. AI, not to mention you, he usually doesn't respect me and your senior sister-in-law. Hee, why would junior brother blame him? Xiao Hua sneered. He built his own foundation, while junior brother refined his own qi. Speaking of qi, Xiao Hua recalled his own anger and couldn't help but laugh. It's good that junior brother can see past it. Xiang Yang didn't know whether Xiao Hua was really laughing or not. He only comforted, we don't have any foundation, we can't compare to junior brother Chui. He has a lot of medicinal pills and other things on him. It's normal for his cultivation to progress so fast. That's right, senior brother. Do you know about the true spirit bloodline of the cultivation families? What kind of true spirit bloodline is that Chuanyu Chui family? Xiao Hua suddenly asked. If you asked senior brother this question 2 years ago, senior brother really wouldn't be able to answer. Xiang Yang smiled. A few years ago, when master and junior brother Chui were analyzing the progress of cultivation, junior brother Chui proudly said that their Chuanyu Chui family had some Ling Ke true blood. It seems that your Fairy Hong Xia's Kai family has some Ice Phoenix true blood. It's an extremely powerful bloodline. I remember now. This junior brother Chui seems to have some impression of Fairy Hong Xia. Oh. Xiao Hua's mouth hung a trace of a smile. That depends on whether Fairy Hong Xia has any impression of him or not. Xiang Yang's laughter was very honest, but there was also a trace of other meaning in it. Hearing this, Xiao Hua unconsciously raised a question in his heart. Fairy Hong Xia's Ice Phoenix bloodline had awakened, Yun Jichong's Flame Dragon bloodline had awakened, and this Di Hongshan's cultivation had increased so fast. Could it be that some bullshit Ling Ke bloodline was also about to awaken? Thinking about the other disciples who had entered the sect, their cultivation was advancing at the speed of a tortoise. This was a phenomenon that had never happened before. The Imperial Thunder Sect's method of selecting disciples for thousands of years was not for nothing. Why did it start to fail now? Was there a problem with the aptitude of these disciples? Or was it some other problem? Cultivation method? Medicinal pill? Spiritual grass? Seeing that the cave dwelling in the 10,000 Thunder Valley was in sight, Xiang Yang asked again, Junior brother Xiao, next, what do you plan to do? What other plans can junior brother have? I'll just stay in the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden and cultivate. Xiao Hua touched his nose and smiled. I can't go out to train, right? I just came back, so I'll stay in the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden for a while. Xiang Yang nodded. It's quiet there, and no one will disturb me. That's right. Xiao Hua smiled. Oh right, I haven't seen you for a few years, but senior brother's cultivation has improved a lot. Junior brother is really envious. Isn't my cultivation all due to junior brother Zhao's credit? If not for junior brother Xiao, how could senior brother have entered the middle stage of foundation establishment? And senior brother's cultivation also seems to be entering a bottleneck. In a few years, senior brother will go out with you to train. Xiang Yang smiled, but there was also bitterness in his smile. Xiao Hua understood in his heart that Xiang Yang was not young. Even if he broke through to the middle stage of foundation establishment, his lifespan was still insufficient. His middle stage foundation establishment cultivation was too far away from Fairy Hong Xia. Xiang Yang wanted to go out to train, he probably had other ideas. Great. Xiao Hua clapped and said, if senior brother goes out to train with junior brother definitely won't encounter the dangers of the last training. Junior brother Xiao is? Xiang Yang hesitated. Xiao Hua understood and smiled. this matter has already passed, junior brother also doesn't want to mention it again. Indeed. Xiang Yang nodded. Senior brother also had such an experience in his early years. After that, I don't want to mention a single word. At this moment, two divine senses swept over from afar. Xiang Yang immediately smiled and said, Master's wife and your senior brother's wife are here. Chapter 1805. The next morning, facing the rising sun, Xiaohua came out from Xiang Yang's cave in Myriad Thunder Valley. He cupped his hands and said goodbye to Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian. Holding the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden token that Xiang Yang returned to him, he flew towards Eastern Ridge Herb Garden using ordinary flying techniques. Yan Qinglian and Zhuo Minghui still liked Xiaohua. Although they weren't as emotional as Sun Shu and Xue Xue, Xiaohua could still see the surprise in their eyes. Of course, Zhuo Minghui only asked about Xiaohua's experience. She didn't mention anything about what happened after Xiaohua went to the netherworld, which made Xiaohua feel a lot more relaxed. Even when Xiang Yang mentioned that he met Sun Shu and Xue Xue in front of the guest pavilion, Yan Qinglian even jokingly asked Zhuo Minghui to go to Sun Lei Palace and get in touch with Sun Ming. Her words seemed to treat Sun Shu and Xue Xue as equals. This made Xiaohua's face a bit embarrassed. Actually, after the last experience, Xiaohua calmed down and could naturally see Sun Shu's feelings. Especially when Xiaohua fell into the wind cave, Sun Shu wanted to chase after him regardless of everything. If Qian Dihing didn't stop him, Sun Shu really would have followed Xiaohua into the wind cave. Thinking about Sun Shu's behavior, Xiaohua felt a bit guilty. At this time, listening to Yan Qinglian's teasing, wouldn't his face be even redder? Although last night's talk made Xiaohua's heart feel warm, there were 2 points that made Xiaohua feel awkward. First, he didn't show up at all. It seemed that after returning from the mountain gate, he directly went to Myriad Thunder Valley and didn't have any interest in seeing Xiaohua. This really made Xiaohua feel wronged. Secondly, although Zhuo Minghui was still affectionate towards Xiaohua, her words often inadvertently revealed her fondness for Di Hongshan. She couldn't help but compare Xiaohua or Xiang Yang with Di Hongshan in many matters. She felt quite proud that Myriad Thunder Valley had such a disciple. Forget it, he has such a dazzling cultivation, why should I fight with him? Since I already chose the 18th layer of qi refining, I shouldn't regret anything. Xiaohua flew in the air, still thinking. Moreover, there are times when a person's strength is limited, no one can be the master of all times. Even in a small Myriad Thunder Valley, the day before yesterday it might be Xiang, yesterday it might be me, today it's Di Hongshan, then what about tomorrow? There will be younger martial brothers. I'm already at the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm. Why would I fight for favor with an aura refining brat? Besides, I'm already in the late stage of the 17th layer of the qi refining realm. It won't be long before I can use the last fire essence flame crystal and reach the 18th layer of the qi refining realm. It'll only be a matter of a few years before I reach the foundation building realm. When I reach the foundation building realm, perhaps Master won't treat me so coldly anymore. But when he thought up to this point, Xiaohua's heart suddenly turned cold. Eldest senior martial brother has built his foundation, and now his cultivation level is at the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm. But in Master's eyes, he still can't compare to Di Hongshan. Even if I build my foundation, I'm afraid I'll only be a second Xiang Yang. Eldest senior brother has a pure heart and will be able to endure it. I'm afraid I won't be able to. Heh. After reaching the foundation establishment stage and having an immortal's cave, who would still want to make a fool of themselves in front of Master? The red clouds on my left hand and the snow on my right. It's good to be free and unfettered. Thinking of this, Xiaohua's eyes flashed with a fiery passion. With a long whistle, a string of afterimages flashed by. With a faint sound of wind and thunder, he used the bright thunder escape and rushed towards the Eastern Ridge Medicinal Garden with incomparable speed. When Xiaohua opened the restrictions of the Eastern Ridge Medicinal Garden, he felt a hot breath rushing towards him. It was even more intense than when he left several years ago. Alas, if it continues like this, the Eastern Ridge Medicinal Garden won't be a place to stay for long. Xiaohua understood that if the medicinal herbs of the Eastern Ridge Medicinal Garden died, there would naturally be no value in guarding this place. He would probably have to go to another place. However, when Xiaohua inspected the medicinal garden, he surprisingly discovered that apart from the blazed dawn grass, all the other spiritual herbs had already withered. Furthermore, the blazed dawn grass was actually growing luxuriantly. It seemed that no one took care of it and no one watered it with spiritual energy, causing it to grow even better. Great! Xiaohua clapped his hands and said with a smile, "With this blazed dawn grass, I won't have to worry about where to go before I reach the Foundation establishment realm." Soon after, Xiaohua waved his hand and several puppets were taken out from the space. Under Xiaohua's control, they respectively went to different medicinal gardens and began to work. These were the damaged puppets that Xiaohua had obtained from the magnetism space. In these 5 years, when Xiaohua and Fairy Hongxia were not cultivating, Xiaohua was comprehending the puppetry technique that Emo Qingyuan had given him while repairing these puppets. In fact, these puppets were not damaged much. However, they had all lost control under the magnetic force of metal and earth. Emo Qingyuan was unable to get close to these puppets, which allowed Xiaohua to take advantage of them. However, if Emo Qingyuan saw his treasured puppets helping Xiaohua tidy up the medicinal garden, he would probably vomit blood out of shame and anger. Xiaohua was very fond of the puppetry technique. In these few years, he had also comprehended a lot of it. However, Fairy Hongxia did not seem to care. She also specially reminded Xiaohua that the key to cultivation was in the realm. Puppets, magic weapons and other things were all auxiliary. If he did not break through the bottleneck before his lifespan came to an end, all his hard work would be wasted. It was also under Fairy Hongxia's warning that Xiaohua realized his lifespan was limited. Fortunately, he could cultivate for a few more years. Foundation establishment was not too far away. Compared to ordinary disciples, it was normal. As for the puppets, Fairy Hongxia had taken a few from the Ice Valley, but they were all kept in her storage pouch. She did not take them out at all, and did not even let Xiaohua use them. Xiaohua was puzzled. He had asked her about it before. Fairy Hongxia blushed. She pinched Xiaohua's waist, and he immediately came to his senses. Dual cultivation? How could there be outsiders beside them? Even puppets were not allowed. Xiaohua released the puppets to tidy up the medicinal garden. He returned to the cave abode and checked the warning talisman that he had placed a few years ago. There were no abnormal movements. He then looked at the other hidden traps. There were no traces of them being touched either. Thus, Xiaohua's heart was at ease. He was sure that the other token to open the Eastern Ridge Medicinal Garden's spirit array was indeed lost. It was not hidden by someone with ulterior motives. In the following few days, Xiaohua tidied up the medicinal garden. He plucked the mature flame dawngrass and prepared to cultivate further. His prairie fire mental cultivation technique was also at the end. He only needed to refine the last fire essence flame crystal. After stabilizing his realm, he could use the last fire essence flame crystal. Speaking of this fire essence flame crystal, Xiaohua's heart was filled with sweetness. Previously, the fire essence flame crystal was divided among his bones, flesh and meridians. Xiaohua only had 10% left. This time, because of his dual cultivation with Fairy Hongxia, he actually gave 10% to Fairy Hongxia. This 10% fire essence flame crystal was probably the main reason why Fairy Hongxia entered the intermediate foundation establishment stage. After tidying up all the miscellaneous items, Xiaohua kept the puppet into the space. Then, he released the snake-shaped puppet to stand guard in the medicine garden. Then he placed dozens of spirit talismans from the rabbit array on the ground nearby to protect the entire cave dwelling. These dozens of spirit talismans were refined from the flesh of spiritual beasts that Xiaohua obtained from Fairy Hongxia when he was cultivating in the Valley of Ice. In the end, Xiaohua was still not at ease. He activated the fire array before sitting down cross-legged and closed his eyes to cultivate. But at this moment, Xiaohua's heart moved again. He took out the storage bag that Shui gave him. Previously, he had used his divine sense to check it, but there were many things inside. He did not care about the pills and spirit stones. Qian Diheng also said that the artifacts and other things had been handed over to the sect. However, Xiaohua vaguely remembered that he seemed to have seen an artifact in the storage bag. Because he did not look carefully that day, he only remembered now. Sure enough, under the pile of spirit stones, Xiaohua found two things. One was a fan, the other was a blue bead. Following these two things were two jade slips. Xiaohua took out these four things and immersed his divine sense in the jade slips. His face unconsciously showed a happy expression. Leaf Yang fan. Water blue bead. Xiaohua laughed. It's actually two magic treasures. It must have been secretly left by Qian Diheng for I. This guy, he is not even afraid of the sex ban. Xiaohua's two artifacts had already self-destructed in Ming Shi's wind pillar. The other two artifacts were also given to the craftsman as a reward for making the spirit armor. Now, he only had the cloud-suppressing seal and the spirit crow fire net. The cloud-suppressing seal was needless to say, it was a magic treasure that Xiaohua was currently using. As for the spirit crow fire net, it was just barely satisfactory. For Xiaohua, the significance of commemoration was far greater than its use. Therefore, the leaf yang fan and the water blue bead were exactly what Xiaohua needed at this time. As for refining and controlling the leaf yang fan and the water blue bead, didn't Xiaohua have the Buddha's Saraira? He wanted to see if he could control two magic treasures. However, after spending more than 10 days to refine the yang leaf fan and the aquamarine pearl, he sadly discovered that his spiritual power and Buddhist consciousness could control any kind of magic treasure. However, if he were to directly control two magic treasures, he would not be able to do it. Although he could barely support it, his spiritual power was faintly showing signs of going out of control. This was a sign of insufficient magic power. It's already not bad. Xiaohua secretly comforted himself. The other Foundation establishment cultivators still don't have magic treasures, but I have 3 magic treasures in one go. Moreover, I can freely control each one. Even if one of the magic treasures is destroyed by others, I can immediately take out another one. Then, Xiaohua took out a jade slip and carefully looked through the methods of using the leaf yang fan and the water blue bead. After he was familiar with the 2 magic treasures, he stored them in the space. Then, his body shook and the strange phoenix celestial body was born in his body. In these 5 years, when Xiaohua and Fairy Hongxia were dual cultivating, the phoenix celestial body was also copulating with Fairy Hongxia's celestial body. It seemed that this copulation was the Tao of Yin and Yang dual cultivation. The celestial body's improvement was even greater than Xiaohua's. Not only was the outline of the celestial body completely formed, it was no different from Fairy Hongxia's phoenix celestial body. Even the emptiness in the celestial body, which only contained the blood-red thing that could be seen by the Dharma eye, seemed to have started to mutate. But what made Xiaohua vexed was that the phoenix celestial body could no longer be transformed into the mighty Vajra celestial body. The mighty Vajra celestial body's technique could not be practiced. Chapter 1806. Of course, Xiaohua's phoenix celestial body was much more powerful than the mighty Vajra celestial body from before. After all, he had mixed with Fairy Hongxia's phoenix celestial body for so long. If he didn't learn a move or two, wouldn't it be embarrassing? After controlling the phoenix celestial body to practice several times in midair, Xiaohua was extremely satisfied and withdrew the celestial body. Previously, he didn't dare to release the mighty Vajra celestial body because he was afraid that others would see through his Buddhist celestial body cultivation. Now that he had the phoenix celestial body, all these scruples no longer existed. He also had the true spirit bloodline, so he could legitimately resist the pressure of a Foundation establishment cultivator. Then there was the soul-absorbing bell that Xiaohua had almost forgotten. Xiaohua didn't use it much along the way, so he took it out when he was cultivating. However, the contents of this jade slip were quite different from the 9 heavens spirit cultivation technique that Xiaohua obtained from Sun Shu. Moreover, it was more inclined towards the Tao sex cultivation technique. It could even be said that it was the basic foundation of the soul cultivating technique. However, it was only this basic cultivation technique. Xiaohua also didn't cultivate it easily. He had already pondered over it for a year, but he still couldn't completely comprehend it. Xiaohua still had his eyes closed. There was a faintly discernible black silk shooting out from between his eyebrows. It tightly wrapped around the pair of soul-absorbing bells floating in midair. The soul-absorbing bells shook slightly with the entanglement of the black silk in midair, making a silent sound. This sound was extremely strange. It was like the chirping of birds in the empty mountains, but also like the disturbance in the marketplace. It could directly penetrate one's soul. Moreover, as the sound of the bell continued to accelerate, there was a kind of invisible sound wave that shrouded the surrounding few feet of space. There was a kind of gloomy feeling. Pa! Just when the ringing sound of the bell showed a strange rhythm, the black silk wrapped around the soul-absorbing bell suddenly broke, and the soul-absorbing bell fell from midair. Xiaohua opened his eyes and sighed. Could it be that I really need to have some kind of Cheng clan's bloodline to be able to practice it? Then, with a flick of his sleeve, he put the soul-absorbing bells into the space. He took out the shallow cultivation technique that recorded the 9 heaven spirit and comprehended it word by word. At an uninhabited place on Dawn Rain continent, an area of a few hundred kilometers was enveloped by a type of strange restriction. This restriction was suffused with an imposing aura that caused one to feel suffocated, and it completely didn't seem like something a cultivator could set up. And in the skies above the Earth domain, dark clouds covered the skies. Countless arcs of lightning as thin as a thumb flickered in and out of existence. This spell seemed to connect to the heavens and earth, and even blocked out the sound of thunder. Outside the spell, no sound could be heard. Furthermore, there wasn't even a trace of heaven and earth spiritual qi within a radius of several miles outside the restriction. It was a complete vacuum. Although a lot of heaven and earth spiritual qi poured in from the surroundings, it was immediately absorbed by the enormous spell. Inside the spell, countless bolts of lightning were like brandishing swords and tridents, striking down from all directions. Those bolts of lightning seemed to break through the void. Although they still seemed to be in midair, in the blink of an eye, they arrived on the ground. And on the ground, there was a high altar cast with magic power. On the high altar, a cultivator with a simple and unadorned appearance sat quietly. A 1-foot nascent soul with the same appearance as him also sat upright on his head with a solemn appearance. In the nascent soul's hand was an object that looked like a golden brick. As it waved about, the golden brick produced countless images that flew in midair and blocked the bolts of lightning that struck down. Around the high altar, there were 81 fluttering spirit streamers. On each spirit streamer, there was a type of spirit beast. These spirit beasts were also strange. Some were like ordinary domestic animals, while others were like flying beasts. They looked neither fish nor fowl. However, as the spirit flags fluttered, a faintly discernible spiritual energy flowed in all directions, connecting all 81 spirit flags together. Clearly, it was a miraculous array. At the same time, the faintly flowing spiritual energy also formed a net. Quite a few lightning bolts fell, but they were all absorbed by the net-like spiritual energy and poured into the spirit flags. Great! Although the cultivator didn't open his eyes, he was aware of all the movements on the high altar with his spiritual sense. He couldn't help but be secretly delighted. This old man is lucky. Although this demon-subduing star formation is lacking a lot, it is still an ancient spell formation. Now, it seems that it is suitable to resist the heavenly tribulation. However, the heavenly tribulation has just begun. I don't know how long this spell formation can resist it. This old man has prepared for thousands of years and left many tricks. There is a 30% chance of surviving the tribulation this time. As long as this spell formation can resist the heavenly tribulation in the early stages, the gold brick spirit treasure won't be damaged too much. This old man is confident that he can resist the 3-9 true thunders. Alas, I don't know why, but the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the Dawn Rain continent has changed so suddenly. This old man originally had a glimpse of the heavenly Tao's cultivation, but I actually can't find the door to the heavenly Tao. This old man has no choice but to forcibly pass the tribulation. Moreover, this old man has a premonition that if I don't succeed this time, in the future, I'm afraid I won't have another chance. The heavenly Tao has also changed. The cultivator's eyebrows twitched slightly. He actually had a thought that he shouldn't have at the crucial moment of the tribulation. Just as this thought appeared, he saw a loud rumbling sound in the air. A bolt of lightning appeared out of thin air. This bolt of lightning looked very similar to ordinary lightning, but there was a trace of red inside. With a bang, the bolt of lightning instantly hit the spiritual net of the demon-subduing star heavenly cycle formation. With a swoosh, the lightning surrounding the red bolt of lightning was immediately absorbed by the spiritual net. However, the red bolt of lightning didn't look at the spiritual net at all and went straight through. What kind of heavenly tribulation is this? That cultivator was slightly shocked. The nascent soul above his head hurriedly waved the gold brick spirit treasure. Unexpectedly, with a bang, the spirit treasure's shadow was actually destroyed by the lightning bolt. This is bad. I need to use the spirit treasure's true body. The cultivator rubbed his hands together and the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the restriction was immediately mobilized by him. The spirit treasure in the nascent soul's hands suddenly flew into the air and emitted a golden brilliance. It turned into a radius of 10 feet and blocked the red bolt of lightning. With a loud bang, the red bolt of lightning hit the gold brick. That gold brick suddenly sank a few inches, and the surrounding spiritual chi also sank. However, fortunately, the red bolt of lightning only left a fist-sized hole on the surface of the gold brick. It was still blocked by the gold brick. What kind of lightning is this? It seems that, since ancient times, in the records of heavenly tribulation, there is no such red lightning. The cultivator was slightly shocked. He didn't expect that the spirit treasure protecting him would be damaged at the beginning of the heavenly tribulation. Moreover, it was a heavenly tribulation that he had never heard of before. Heavenly tribulation? Suddenly, a distant memory appeared in the cultivator's mind. He couldn't help but cry out, "No, impossible, the heavenly tribulation is a heavenly tribulation born from the heavenly tribulation of demonic beasts. This heavenly tribulation is targeted at demonic beasts. How can it be targeted at cultivators of the mortal realm? Furthermore, this is only a sliver of red lightning. It is far from the crimson lightning of the holy lightning tribulation." Chapter 1807. This thought only lasted for an instant. At the same time, many bolts of red lightning appeared in the sky like bamboo shoots after a rain, falling down like raindrops. The cultivator was exposed to the red lightning as if he was naked. Once the red lightning appeared, it was different from the previous lightning tribulations. It completely suppressed the restriction formed by the heavenly tribulation, as if the entire sky was pressing down on the cultivator's body. The cultivator's magic power was completely frozen and he couldn't use it at all. The cultivator's expression changed greatly and he complained in his heart, "This is really the demonic beast's holy lightning tribulation." Although the lightning tribulations look different, the demonic beast's first heavenly tribulation is to test the body, so all magic power can't be used. Damn it, I'm a human cultivator, not a demonic beast. How can I withstand being directly hit by lightning? Moreover, this lightning is the holy lightning tribulation for demonic beasts? So bitter. While the cultivator was complaining, he secretly hoped that the protective spiritual treasure outside his body would be useful and help him pass through the holy lightning tribulation that he had never prepared for before. Rumble. The red lightning struck the golden brick, causing it to flash with an intense golden light. Immediately after, it burst open. The golden chi contained within the golden brick immediately dissipated, causing the weight of the entire space to increase tremendously in an instant. The nascent soul outside the cultivator's body saw that the situation wasn't good and immediately wanted to enter the cultivator's body. However, the place where he could come and go freely was now like a rock. No matter what, he couldn't enter it. For a moment, the nascent soul of the transcending tribulation cultivator anxiously cried out. The transcending tribulation cultivator's face also turned ashen. He knew very well what the consequences would be if a transcending tribulation cultivator's nascent soul were to directly face the thunder tribulation. He regretted releasing his nascent soul according to the experience of transcending tribulation cultivators. Who? The nascent soul panicked and wanted to spit something out from its mouth. However, before it could spit it out, there was a sound. Several red lightning bolts struck the nascent soul first. The exquisite spiritual armor on the nascent soul's body instantly emitted an extremely brilliant 5 colors. However, the brilliance didn't last long before it was destroyed by the red lightning. Immediately, the spiritual armor was cut off from the nascent soul's body. The naked nascent soul quickly made a spell and wanted to escape in another direction. However, it had just flown half a foot in the air when it was hit by another red lightning bolt. With a heart-wrenching scream, the red lightning bolt lingered around the nascent soul and tore it into countless small pieces. Under the lightning, these small pieces turned into extremely pure heaven-earth spiritual chi and immediately disappeared. Compared to a nascent soul cultivator, a tribulation-passing cultivator's body was even more miserable. Dozens of bolts of red lightning that were supposed to strike the powerful body of a demonic beast landed on his body, which had never been tempered before. The spirit armor only lasted for a few breaths of time before it was destroyed. Along with the destruction of the spirit armor, the tribulation-passing cultivator's weak body was also destroyed. By the time the cultivator's soul had dissipated, the lightning that was wreaking havoc in the sky began to gradually disappear. The dense dark clouds in the sky also began to slowly recede. The restrictions that were enveloped by the heavenly tribulation also began to disappear bit by bit. Only the high altar and the 81 spirit banners on it were completely undamaged. This was no wonder. The heavenly tribulation had just begun and didn't even show its ferocious face before it ended. The demon-subduing star formation naturally didn't withstand the baptism of the heavenly tribulation. Okay, everyone, don't blame the heavenly tribulation for not being grand enough. The reason has already been explained. Inside the magnificent sect, there was a mountain surrounded by white clouds. There were huge palaces all over the mountain, and there were many rare beasts leisurely scattered around the palaces. Within the palace, there were 2 cultivators sitting opposite each other in a luxurious side hall. The younger cultivator was Sun Yunzi, the sect master of the magnificent flower sect. Sitting opposite him was a rather old man. The old man's hair and beard were all white, and he looked very miserable. He was far from the immortal-like cultivator that people imagined him to be. This person was the magnificent sect's elder, Black Flame. He was at the early stage of the spirit-severing stage. Sun Yunzi respectfully asked, "Elder Black Flame, the magnificent sect has been developing like this for the past few decades. Junior didn't dare to disturb you when you went into closed-door cultivation to break through to the mid-stage of the spirit-severing stage. What do you think about the sect's development?" Taoist Black Flame opened his eyes slightly and glanced at Sun Yunzi. After a long while, he said slowly, "This Taoist is old and has long since stopped caring about the affairs of the sect. How do you expect this old man to answer your questions?" The heavy burden of the Jianghu sect has been placed on this junior's shoulders. This junior has racked his brains and dared not slack off. But this junior knows very well that the reason why our Jianghu sect can stand firm in the country of Xi and even the Dawn Rain continent is because of powerful cultivators like Senior. If not for Senior and other elders, any spirit-severing cultivator who found the Golden Palace would be a disaster for our Jianghu sect. Yes, this is only one of the reasons, and it's not the most important reason. Black Flame said, "I think the most important thing is the younger generation. If these disciples have unlimited potential, who would dare to cause trouble for my magnificent sect? Who can guarantee that there won't be a few spirit-severing stage cultivators?" That's right. Senior's words are correct. Sun Yunzi respectfully said, "Junior didn't think about this before. Taoist Black Flame smiled and the wrinkles on his face slightly trembled. He stretched out his withered tree-like hand and waved it, saying, Sun Yunzi, if you have something to say, then say it quickly. You've always been a strange and clever brat since you were young. You always hide everything from me, so how could I not know what you're thinking? Hee hee, Sun Yunzi dryly laughed and said, Senior is truly perceptive. Junior does have something to ask. Go ahead. Senior, in the past 10 years, Junior, and my fellow disciples have discovered that the world's spirit energy has changed. Sun Yunzi stole a glance at Black Flame, but there was no expression on Black Flame's face. He continued, if it was a simple change in the world's spirit energy, Junior wouldn't be worried. After all, the world's changes aren't something us cultivators can interfere with. But recently, in the past 5 or 6 years, there has been a huge problem with the disciples my magnificent sect has recruited. Junior has no choice but to ask Senior for an answer. HM? What's the problem? Black Flame's eyes widened and he said, I've long known about the change in the world's spirit energy. Moreover, it's not as simple as you think. Ever since I felt the change in the world's spirit energy, my cultivation began to slow down. Although the speed of the decrease isn't great, it's still fatal for a cultivator like me who doesn't have much time left. This old man originally thought that with your low cultivation, you might not be able to detect it. Who would have thought that you already knew? As for the qi refining disciples, they aren't true cultivators, so they shouldn't be affected, right? Senior, you're too optimistic. Sun Yunzi said with a serious expression. The qi refining disciples seem to be affected more than us. Then, Sun Yunzi explained how qi refining disciples were divided into 2 extremes. He said gloomily, in the current Dawn Rain continent, the cultivation families rely on us. Every family takes pride in sending their disciples to our sections. Now that these disciples' cultivations have increased by leaps and bounds, their extremely thin true spirit bloodlines have awakened, the situation will definitely change. This will definitely change the current cultivation structure of the Dawn Rain continent. I'm afraid that the cultivation aristocratic families will surpass our cultivation sects sooner or later. Yes, Sect Master is right. Black Flame thought for a moment and nodded. However, our cultivation sects are so powerful that the cultivation families can't compare to them. The situation between sects and families is still different. Junior understands. However, if we don't find the reason why our disciples can't cultivate, it's only a matter of time before our Xianghua sect becomes decadent. The revival of the cultivation sects is also a matter of time. Sun Yunzi said worriedly. Yes, that's right. Black Flame nodded. Have we reported this to the Immortal Alliance? Sun Yunzi shook his head. Not yet. After all, this concerns the prosperity of the sect. Junior doesn't dare to act on his own. If only my Xianghua sect is facing this problem and the other sects aren't, where will my Xianghua sect go? The other sects? I'm afraid their defenses are also very tight, right? That's right. We don't have any concrete information. Everything is just groundless speculation. After a while, Black Flame asked, among the disciples who aren't from the cultivation families, are there any who can cultivate quickly? There aren't any, not a single one. Sun Yunzi answered without hesitation. Black Flame slowly nodded and said, although I can't determine the crux of the matter, I'm afraid it has something to do with the change in the world's spirit energy. However, my cultivation is still low. If I can get some guidance from a tribulation passing senior, I might be able to determine something. Sun Yunzi's face was filled with helplessness. Of course, Sect Master should consider this from another angle. Since the disciples of the cultivation families can cultivate according to our Xianghua sect's cultivation method. Black Flame's expression suddenly changed. No, after the disciples of the cultivation families enter our Xianghua sect, most of them still cultivate their own cultivation methods, right? That's right. Sun Yunzi bitterly smiled. If their families have a cultivation method that leads to foundation establishment, our sect won't let them cultivate our sect's cultivation method. Then, what about the disciples of the cultivation families who don't have a cultivation method that leads to foundation establishment? Sun Yunzi seemed to have thought of something and a thoughtful expression appeared on his face. These disciples aren't slow either. Oh, that's good. Black Flame's expression relaxed and he smiled. This means that our Shanghua sect's cultivation method can still be cultivated under the change in the world's spirit energy. There's no need for us cultivation sects to unite. That's right. Sun Yunzi's face revealed a trace of malevolence and he sneered. Junior wants to send out an order to gather the Seven Skills sect, Xuanyan School, and even the Huanhua sect and Imperial Thunder sect to discuss, exterminate the cultivation families. Chapter 1808. Sun Yunzi snorted coldly and said, although this is very difficult, the cultivation families and cultivation sects are already inextricably linked. However, for the sake of the survival of the cultivation sects, I'm afraid that these cultivation sects will agree to my Shanghuazong's suggestion. Black Flame's words were as Sun Yunzi had expected. Luckily, since my Shanghua sect's cultivation method can still be used, it means that the method of recruiting disciples needs to be improved. As long as I choose the right disciples, my sect will be able to maintain its prosperity. Sun Yunzi came to a sudden realization and said, Senior Black Flame is indeed wise. You've enlightened me all of a sudden. Ha, I'm already old. No need to praise me anymore. Black Flame smiled. I don't believe that you haven't thought of this. You only came to me to ask for confirmation. Hee, Sun Yunzi didn't refute. Since the cultivation method can still be used and the normal disciples can also cultivate, why don't we increase our recruitment efforts? Every year, we recruit more disciples from cultivation families. Also, when they start refining qi, they will have their life spirit tablets. This way, they won't have a chance to rebel against our cultivation sect. As for the normal disciples, we also need to recruit more and see if there are any disciples who can cultivate as fast as the disciples from cultivation families. Find out what's different about these disciples. Black Flame slowly said, if we use these differences as the criteria for recruiting disciples, our Shanghua sect won't have to worry about not being able to flourish under the change in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Sage's suggestion is indeed wise. Sun Yunzi praised. But I'm afraid this process might take 10 years or even 100 years. 10 years? 100 years? Black Flame sneered. Within 1,000 years, within the lifespan of your nascent soul, you'll be the hero of our Shanghua sect. Then, he mercilessly said, even if you reach the spirit-severing stage, if you can find it within a few thousand years, I'll still be smiling in the underworld. Sun Yunzi wasn't angry at all and smiled. Junior knows that this is too much of a first and is probably the biggest challenge after the ancient era, so I came to ask for advice from the elder. This is the key to the survival of our Shanghua sect, so the elder can't just stand by and watch. I finally know what you're planning. Black Flame Sage clapped his hands and took out a jade slip. He handed it over to Sun Yunzi and said, this is something I recently comprehended. It's a method for ordinary disciples to forge a life spirit tablet. Take it. Sun Yunzi was overjoyed. He smiled and said, Junior knew that spiritual master must have a miraculous prescription that I couldn't imagine. It was indeed so. Sai, you can go now. Although this method is useful, it has many flaws. I hope you can make good use of it. Black Flame seemed to be somewhat tired as he waved his hand and said, Sun Yunzi immediately stood up and bowed. Junior will take his leave now. I dare not disturb Taoist cultivation. After Sun Yunzi left, Taoist Black Flame closed his eyes for a while before raising his head to look at the sky outside the side hall. The white clouds in the sky were still there, and the blue sky hadn't changed at all. Alas, the world has changed. Under the heavenly Tao, who can escape? Heaven and earth are heartless, treating all living things as straw dogs. These words are not deceiving. What a pity, what a pity. I'm afraid I won't be able to see the secrets of the heavenly Tao for the rest of my life. Black Flame stood there for more than half a day before he flew into the air, transforming into a streak of light as he flew southwest, disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Xiao Huan naturally didn't know that so many things had happened on the Rain continent. Of course, even if he knew, with his cultivation as a qi refinement cultivator, he wouldn't have the chance to express his opinion. All he could do now was cultivate in peace. Soon, a year had passed. After Xiao Hua handed over another bag of Xiao Yen grass, the last fire essence flame crystal in his meridians had been completely refined. It was time to use the last fire essence flame crystal to charge into the 18th layer of qi refinement. As for Xiao Hua, he clapped his hands and took out a pair of soul-sucking bells from his space. They floated quietly in the air. Xiao Hua didn't do anything, and he didn't even release his divine sense. The soul-sucking bells were swaying strangely. Although the clear ringing wasn't very loud, it filled the entire cave. Looking at Xiao Hua's eyes again, a faint black light flashed through his eyes. A few strands of black light, invisible to the naked eye and only detectable by divine sense, were slowly spreading out from between his eyebrows. They circled around the soul-sucking bells and vibrated with a strange rhythm. It's really strange. A satisfied smile emerged on Xiao Hua's face as he thought to himself, although I can't directly practice this incantation of Qing Clan, but after practicing some simple soul cultivation techniques, I can control this soul-absorbing bell. Obviously, this soul-absorbing bell of Qing Clan was passed down from millions of Meng mountains. A soul cultivation technique? It should be a soul technique. If it's so powerful, then what about the soul cultivators in the Million Mountains? No wonder even though the Dao sect and sword cultivators are so powerful, they don't dare to enter the Million Mountains, and the Dao sect in the Million Mountains doesn't dare to come here either. The Dao sect cultivates the lower Dantian, the Buddhist sect cultivates the Saraira, and the sword cultivators cultivate the natal sword origin. They can all be seen, but where is the soul cultivator's 3 souls and 6 spirits? Although I have a rough understanding of the 9 heavens of spirit origin, I still don't know where the soul is. Xiao Hua frowned again and said, "Why don't I take a look with my delusion breaker Dharma eyes?" Just as he was thinking, Xiao Hua's eyebrows twitched. He sensed that the array formation outside the eastern ridge herb garden was stirring. Xiao Hua took out his token and formed a hand seal, releasing the array formation. 2 scarlet transmission talismans flew in at the same time. When Xiao Hua crushed the messaging talismans, Sun Shu's and Qian Diheng's voices came from them. They were the same message. They had just finished building their foundation, and they sent messaging talismans to inform Xiao Hua first. Sun Shu's messaging talisman was nothing special. He couldn't hide his joy and gratitude. "Xiao Hua, I have finally built my foundation. Moreover, before I built my foundation, I have already started practicing the hibernating thunder escape. If nothing unexpected happens, I will be able to complete it when I build my foundation." Master was right. This Zhongyao milk is indeed a shortcut to cultivating the lightning escape. Thinking back to that day, when I sent you an invitation at the Feather Immortal Assembly, I really didn't expect that I would have such a day. I don't know what to say to you. I have already said a simple thank you countless times. I don't want to say it again in this lifetime. Really want to. But after saying want to a few times, Sun Shu didn't finish his sentence. Xiao Hua let out a long sigh. He felt very upset. Just as he was about to throw the messaging talisman away, Sun Shu said again. Chapter 1809. By the way, Xiao Hua, after the disciples of my Imperial Thunder sect reach the foundation establishment stage, there will be a simple celebration. Master has set the date to be 10 days later. At that time, my master's martial uncles and martial ancestors who are on good terms with my master will bring their disciples over. On one hand, they will congratulate him, and on the other hand, they will talk about cultivation after reaching the foundation establishment stage. Will you come? And, if you come, remember to send me a messaging talisman. I will go with junior sister Shui to the Sun Lei Palace to pick you up. Qian Diheng's messaging talisman was much more exaggerated. Qian Diheng laughed and said, "Junior brother Xiao, damn it, I finally reached foundation establishment. After I send you a messaging talisman, I will immediately send one to Wang Yunxiao, Yuanhua and Mingu. Damn it, you actually dare to act like a senior in front of me. Right? I originally wanted to go to the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden personally. Needless to say, I was able to reach Foundation establishment all because of Junior Brother's contribution. If I don't thank you, who should I thank? However, I didn't receive your message and know that you haven't reached Foundation establishment yet. What if I go? Do you have any thoughts in your heart? Therefore, it's better for me not to go. 10 days later, there will be a small celebration in my heavenly Thunder Palace. Damn it, it's to congratulate me for truly stepping into cultivation. If you want to come, then come. If you don't feel good, then don't come. In any case, I will use the hibernating thunder escape at that time and let Wang Yunxiao and those dogs see who is the real Imperial Thunder Sect Foundation establishment disciple. Cool. Junior Brother Xiao, you should also hurry up and cultivate. TSK, I won't say any more. If I say more, it will only make you unhappy. Right? The magic treasures in the storage bag were left by me. Consider it a gift for you. If other masters find out, just say it was from me. And one last thing. Don't worry, cultivate well. Even if you can't reach Foundation establishment, you are still my junior brother. As long as I am in the Imperial Thunder Sect, I will definitely not let anyone bully you. Hee, I will definitely think of a way to let you and Shui have a good relationship. This is my promise to you. Damn it. Xiao Hua's heart was filled with warmth. He scolded jokingly, you are just an early-stage Foundation establishment, yet you dare to call yourself senior brother in front of me. When I have time, I will deal with this guy. Foundation establishment middle-stage Foundation establishment cultivators were dealt with by me. As he spoke, he took out the other 2 message amulets and said the same thing. With a wave of his hand, the message amulets flew to different places. Xiao Hua himself had yet to build his foundation, so why would he attend someone else's foundation building celebration for no reason? Moreover, he had no use for other people's foundation establishment experience. If he went, he would only become a laughingstock. Even if he didn't care, what about Sun Shu or Qian Diheng? There was no need for him to make things difficult for them. Sigh, I wonder if I'll be able to find a sliver of memory when I reach the 18th layer of qi refining. Xiao Hua was somewhat perplexed. He stopped cultivating and slowly walked out of the abode. At this time, it was broad daylight and the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden was scorching hot. Standing on the mountain ridge, Xiao Hua stared at the clear sky for a long time. After searching for so many years, I still haven't found any clues of my origins. I've tried all kinds of methods, but other than the occasional cultivation technique, I've found nothing. I hope that the painstaking effort I put into cultivating the 18th layer of aura refining can be seen by the heavens. When I reach the peak of the 18th layer of aura refining, the heavens will give me some clues about my origins. Oh heavens, I don't need too much. Just a sliver will be enough. Could the heavens hear Xiao Hua's wishes? No one knew that there were only white clouds in the sky, hot air on the ground, and Xiao Hua, who was bitterly searching for his origins on the eastern ridge. After sighing with emotion for a moment, Xiao Hua's gaze turned resolute. He swept his eyes all around and said with a smile, "Since I'm here, I'll take things as they come. This young master isn't talented. If I can't reach the 18th layer of aura refining, then I'll reach foundation establishment. If I can't reach foundation establishment, then I'll reach core formation. This young master doesn't believe that if I cultivate to transcend tribulation and reach the great ascension stage, this young master still won't be able to find my origins." Unfortunately, this was only Xiao Hua's wishful thinking. In his heart, the great ascension stage was already the end of cultivation. He was already an almighty figure. However, he didn't know that his memories. How could a tribulation-transcending cultivator guess the light reversal in his space? How could a great ascension stage cultivator control it? With a goal in mind, Xiao Hua was once again filled with confidence. He clapped his hands and took out the last piece of fire essence flame crystal from his space. The small piece that was scorching hot and contained an extremely large amount of fire attribute spiritual chi of heaven and earth immediately gathered and absorbed the surrounding fire attribute spiritual chi. Xiaohua's figure floated up and flew into the cave. At the same time, the rabbit formation and the fire formation were also activated. Under the eastern ridge, a fist-sized chunk of lava was formed. The lava was divided into several layers. The outermost layer was magma that was like water. As it went further in, it gradually hardened and turned into crystals. Further in it was empty. In this empty space, there was a trace of a pitch-black collapse. It was the kind of collapse that was so hot that it almost burned the space. Following the appearance of the fire essence flame crystal, the pitch-black collapse began to move again. It was like a wriggling worm that began to slowly rise. The rise was unstoppable. It easily passed through the crystals and the hardened parts in the middle. When it passed through the magma that was like water, the magma actually evaporated like water. When Xiaohua sat down cross-legged and slapped the fire essence flame crystal into his arm, intense flames once again rose from his body. The speed at which the pitch-black collapsed and floated up increased once again. It was like a young swallow's desire to return to its nest. Now that he had already used the fourth fire essence flame crystal, Xiaohua was already familiar with it. As his body was being torn apart by the blazing flames, the intense pain on his body still made Xiaohua release the phoenix celestial body regardless of everything. Although he couldn't use the great strength Vajra celestial body at this time, the virtual dots that formed the phoenix celestial body were the same as the small dots that formed Xiaohua's body. They were both absorbing the flames of the fire essence flame crystal. At the same time, Xiaohua's bones once again became a mixture of crimson and pure white. 80% of them had already been entangled by the red threads. Now, under the burning of the flames, they slowly extended and advanced towards 100%. However, when they neared 100%, the red threads no longer extended. Even though the flames around Xiaohua's body were still there was still an extremely large amount that hadn't been absorbed. The red threads also stopped moving. In other words, when Xiaohua used the fire essence flame crystal to temper his bones, he could only temper them to 99%. There was still a little bit that he couldn't use the fire essence flame crystal to complete the refinement. At this time, Xiaohua didn't have any extra thoughts to consider. After the dragon transformation art also absorbed the flames, he circulated the prairie fire cultivation method and did his best to absorb the excess flames. The pitch-black collapse under the eastern ridge continued to rise. After nearly 30 days, it finally arrived at the edge of the formation that enveloped the entire eastern ridge. As expected, that formation was basically like nothingness. The pitch-black collapse flashed past and moved towards the flames where Xiaohua was. At the same time that the formation was crossed, in a large hall in the Heavenly Thunder Palace, there was a lecture. A mid-gold core stage cultivator sat high up on a cloud platform in the hall. His eyes were slightly closed as he spoke about the true meaning of cultivation. Below the cloud platform, more than 10 peak late foundation establishment stage cultivators sat in a circle. Each and every one of them had their eyes wide open as they stared unblinkingly at the gold core stage cultivator's face. Their ears were perked up as if they didn't dare to miss a single word. Today's lecture was about the experience of condensing one's core. It was something that these peak foundation establishment stage cultivators had been longing for a long time. If they were fated, perhaps one of the sentences would be able to move them and they might be able to build their foundation on the spot. But right at this time, the body of a cultivator in the front row suddenly shook. His face revealed an expression of wild joy. Wasn't this cultivator the foundation establishment stage cultivator who was previously peeping at Xiaohua from afar? This slight vibration was naturally very strange among the intoxicated and stupefied crowd. Not only were the surrounding cultivators slightly startled, their faces revealing expressions of jealousy, even the gold core stage cultivator on the cloud platform also opened his eyes. However, when the cultivator's divine sense swept over, he immediately frowned. After listening to the lecture, he berated, "Yu Hua, what are you doing? Are you comprehending something? Is there a sign of condensing one's core? Disciple. The joy on the peak foundation establishment stage disciple's face disappeared. He whispered. Disciple was enlightened by Martial Uncle's words. It was very useful. But what? The gold core stage cultivator was still unhappy. Back then, you could be considered a handsome youth of my heavenly thunder palace, but now you haven't been able to condense your core for nearly 100 years. I am here to talk about the experience of condensing one's core. What are you still not satisfied with? The foundation establishment stage disciple was terrified. He lowered his head and said, Disciple doesn't dare. Disciple will listen attentively. Humph. The gold core stage cultivator snorted. He still closed his eyes and continued to lecture. However, after a day and a night, the foundation establishment stage disciple was like an ant on a hot pan, scratching his ears and cheeks from time to time. How could he listen to a single word? Qian Yuhua, what's the matter? The gold core stage cultivator angrily asked again. Yes, Martial Uncle knows. Qian Yuhua stood up and saluted. Disciple is refining Ling Li pills in his cave residence. Disciple calculated with his fingers that these few days are the day when the pills will be formed. Disciple is anxious. Oh, why didn't you say it that day? Otherwise, you wouldn't have come to listen. Hearing this, the gold core stage cultivator's expression softened a little. He scolded, You can get lingy grass. You are really lucky. Martial Uncle's lecture, how dare I not listen? Qian Yuhua smiled apologetically. And whether this Ling Li pill can be formed is still uncertain. I dare not delay. Well, you can go. The gold core stage cultivator flicked his sleeve and said, Thank you for your kindness. Qian Yuhua bowed and was about to leave. The other cultivators next to him shouted, Senior Brother Qian, why didn't you tell us that you got lingy grass? How many Qianli pills can you refine? I don't know if we have any hope. Qian Yuhua looked anxious, but he still put on a smile and said, Junior brothers, I will take a look first. If the pills can be formed, everything will be fine. I will keep one for myself and give the rest to you. Great. The others let Qian Yuhua go. After Qian Yuhua came out of the palace, he first hurried into a side hall and then flew out. After flying to a fairy-like cave residence, he hurriedly flew out and used the hibernating thunder escape to go in one direction. That direction was not the East Ridge Herb Garden. However, half a day later, Qian Yuhua's figure appeared outside the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden. At this moment, Qian Yuhua was also holding a token similar to Xiao Hua's. Chapter 1810. Xiao Hua's eyes were tightly shut, and the Phoenix celestial body had already retracted into his body. After the Phoenix celestial body had absorbed more than 30 days of fire essence flame crystals, the 13,200 virtual points within the celestial body actually seemed to have solidified. Within the solidification, there were some faint flames. The netherworld wind that formed the Phoenix celestial body had also changed. It revolved around the 13,200 virtual points and actually formed 13,200 small wind pillars. The shape of the wind pillars looked exactly the same as the netherworld wind pillars. There were still a lot of fire essence flame crystals left in Xiao Hua's meridians. After absorbing the same amount of fire essence flame crystals as last time, the dragon transformation arts meridians also stopped absorbing. It was precisely because there were so many fire essence flame crystals in his meridians that Xiao Hua's body was surrounded by flames. It was far from what the previous few times could compare to. Great, it really is the 18th level of qi refining. Xiao Hua sensed the changes in his body and secretly rejoiced in his heart. He silently used the prairie fire cultivation technique to easily break through the barrier of the 17th level of qi refining. The scorching flames followed the circulation of true qi in the new meridians. The foundation establishment cultivation technique refined the flames into Xiao Hua's own true qi. At this moment, Xiao Hua suddenly felt a warning in his heart. The rabbit array he laid down was actually destroyed in an instant, and the attack that destroyed the array came from 10 zhang below him. Who? Xiao Hua was shocked. His Buddhist sense swept down without hesitation. His Buddhist sense swept through the Tenjiang underground area, but he didn't find any abnormalities. What's going on? Xiaohua didn't dare to cultivate anymore. Just as he was about to escape into the ground with the flames around him to investigate, the fire array closest to him was once again destroyed. Not good. Xiaohua didn't have time to escape into the ground. He immediately flew out of the cave and slapped his hand. The cloud-suppressing seal immediately flew out. Along with the cloud-suppressing seal's buzzing sound, the surrounding hot fire's spiritual energy flocked into the cloud-suppressing seal. The earthen yellow brilliance was strangely dazzling. Seeing the brilliance of the cloud-suppressing seal protecting him, Xiaohua's heart felt a bit more at ease. However, he still stood in the air very vigilantly. He still released his Buddhist sense and stared straight into the cave at the same time. What is this thing? What the naked eye could see was a pitch-black dot slowly flying towards him. Xiaohua couldn't help but be shocked. His Buddhist sense and divine sense couldn't see it clearly. It could only be vaguely seen with the naked eye. Quick! Xiaohua didn't know why he attracted this little black dot. He hurriedly stretched out his left hand and opened his delirium eyes. Immediately, it was as if he was looking directly at the sun with his naked eyes. A dazzling feeling came from the delirium eyes. Xiaohua couldn't help but groan and immediately closed his delirium eyes. However, what he saw through the delirium breaker eye was deeply imprinted in his mind. What a strange scene. The entire space was filled with a fiery red color, and at the location of the black dot, there was a fiery red like the sun. It was abnormally bright, and it was truly out of Xiaohua's expectations. It was like the intense brilliance of the scorching sun. Fire-type spiritual energy. Fire marrow flame crystal? Xiaohua suddenly came to a realization, but at the same time he thought of the fire essence flame crystal. A kind of incomparable joy filled his heart. The origin of fire. This thing that he saw in the light escape technique immediately flashed in his mind. This is the origin of fire. Xiaohua almost groaned again. He had always been thinking about how to find the origin of fire. Even in the records of the Imperial Thunder Sect's great lightning palaces, there were no traces of it. He didn't expect that it would suddenly appear while he was cultivating. Haha! Flame essence, it really is the flame essence. A crazy voice suddenly sounded from behind Xiaohua. Who? Xiaohua was shocked. His mind was shocked by the origin of fire, and he actually lost his vigilance. He didn't even know that someone had flown behind him. He clearly remembered that the Eastern Ridge Medicine Gardens array had been closed several dozen days ago. When he turned around and saw Qianyuhua, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. A late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator? Damn, this cultivation is even more powerful than Masters. Qianyuhua didn't even look at Xiaohua. His gaze was fixed on the so-called flame essence. The passion in his eyes was even more fervent than when a man saw a naked virgin. It was a kind of naked desire. Senior, how did you come in? Xiaohua's eyes turned slightly. He had a plan in mind, so he bowed and asked. Qianyuhua didn't seem to hear and simply ignored Xiaohua. His gaze was still fixed on the origin of fire, carefully observing the trajectory of the origin of fire as it slowly moved. Xiaohua waited for a moment. When he saw that the origin of fire was closer to him, he couldn't help but be startled. He quickly flew a little further away. He knew that the fire marrow flame crystal was nothing more than the essence of fire. He had used a little and almost set himself on fire the first time. If his bones, phoenix body, and meridians hadn't absorbed the majority of it, he would have already turned into ashes. This origin of fire, how could it be so easy to endure? However, when he moved a little, the origin of fire also changed direction and flew towards Xiaohua. At this time, Qianyuhua seemed to have just seen Xiaohua. He raised his eyes and curiously stared at the flames around Xiaohua's body. He chuckled and said, Xiaohua, what's the matter with the flames around your body? This old man seems to have only heard that you have a concealed fire physique. but I've never heard of you being able to create flames around your body. When Xiaohua heard this, he was startled. However, he still respectfully replied, Senior, may I know your name and how did you enter my Eastern Ridge Herb Garden? Hee, this old man doesn't need to tell you my name. As for how I came in, why should I tell you? You didn't tell me about the flames around your body, did you? Chen Yuhua asked with interest. Senior, do you have another token of the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden? Xiaohua asked without hesitation. Chen Yuhua clapped his hands and took out a token. A trace of a smile appeared on his face as he said, That's right, this old man does have another token. However, this old man will no longer need it in the future. While speaking, a strand of Samadhi True Fire appeared in Chen Yuhua's hand. The Samadhi True Fire, which was mixed with a fiery red color, burned the token and turned it into several strands of black smoke that dissipated in the air. Xiaohua's heart sank. His body involuntarily moved back a few feet. However, he still didn't want to give up. He glanced at the fire essence and bitterly smiled. Senior, did you come to the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden for this thing that even your divine sense can't see? That's right. What do you think? Chen Yuhua smiled. It was a satisfied smile as he replied to Xiaohua with a smile. That's right. This junior doesn't know what this thing is. Moreover, this junior doesn't know who senior is. Senior can directly take this thing away and this junior will act as if I've never seen senior. Xiaohua immediately replied. At the same time, he flew several feet away. Chapter 1811. Chen Yuhua seemed to be moved. He glanced at the fire essence and the burning spiritual energy in the herb garden and nodded. Good, since you are so tactful, this old man will let you go. Once this old man takes the fire essence, you can make a blood oath and this old man will leave the Eastern Ridge. Good. Xiaohua clapped his hands. Senior, please. Chen Yuhua slapped his hand and took out a fist-sized ball from his storage pouch. This ball was dark blue in color and was as pure as the blue sky. Go. Chen Yuhua threw the ball and formed a seal with his hand. A deep blue light flew out from the ball and covered the fire essence like a pillar of water. Rise. As Chen Yuhua made another spell, the light wrapped around the origin of fire and then retracted again. It wanted to take the origin of fire away. However, there was a soft tearing sound, and a trace of mist rose from the deep blue light. The origin of fire came out from the mist. Xiaohua was shocked, but Chen Yuhua was unmoved. He seemed to have expected this. He pointed his finger and the ball flew out again, blocking Xiaohua from the fire essence. The dark blue light spat out as it waited for the fire essence to enter the jar. Just as Chen Yuhua had expected, the fire origin easily entered the sphere. It didn't go around like he expected. Chen Yuhua waved his hand and the ball immediately flew into his hand. However, the moment the ball moved, a loud "Kacha" sound came from the ball. A deep blue brilliance flew out from the ball like a flood and mixed into the hot spiritual energy. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared, and the pitch-black collapse appeared outside the ball again. Xiaohua instantly understood that the fire essence was truly scorching hot, and the magic tools or treasures within the sphere were simply unable to resist the scorching heat of the fire essence, so they were simply unable to take it away. Chen Yuhua waved his hand and the ball fell into his hand. After putting it away, he took out a 1-foot-long ruler. The ruler was surrounded by lightning. It was clearly the magic treasure of a lightning cultivator from the Imperial Thunder sect. Go! Chen Yuhua snorted and waved his ruler. The rumbling sound flew into the air and turned into a rectangular ball of lightning. This lightning ball was the same as the previous one. It covered the fire origin from top to bottom. As Chen Yuhua formed hand seals, the lightning ball slowly sealed the fire origin inside. Withdraw! Chen Yuhua rubbed his thumb and forefinger together. The ball of lightning trembled and flew towards Chen Yuhua. However, to Chen Yuhua's disappointment, after the ball of lightning flew away, the fire origin continued to fly toward Xiaohua. It wasn't absorbed by the ball of lightning at all. Instead, there was a fist-sized hole in the ball of lightning. Qian Yuhua's expression darkened, and he couldn't help but look at Xiaohua. Xiaohua's face, which was surrounded by flames, revealed a trace of bitterness. He quickly flew to the side to increase the distance between him and the fire origin. Qian Yuhua's eyes narrowed after seeing Xiaohua's reaction. He clapped his hands again and took out a cauldron about 1 meter wide. Pop! It landed on the ground below him. Then Qian Yuhua waved his hand and took out a fan. Isn't this the yang leaf fan? Xiaohua was stunned when he saw the fan. Qian Yuhua's fan was exactly the same as his. Qian Yuhua first formed several hand seals on the cauldron. The cauldron lit up with bright flames. Then Qian Yuhua used his spiritual power to move the yang leaf fan. Flames flew out from the fan and rushed into the cauldron. The flames in the cauldron suddenly transformed into the shape of fire crows. A dozen fire crows rotated in the cauldron and sucked in the surrounding fire's spiritual qi. Qian Yuhua's move was indeed effective. The fire origin really stopped. However, it only stopped for a moment before it flew toward Xiaohua again. Xiaohua's heart tightened when he saw that Qian Yuhua had failed to take the fire origin and was looking at him. He had been pretending to be weak all this time because he wanted Qian Yuhua to focus on the fire origin and let his guard down. When Qian Yuhua finished collecting the fire origin, he might be able to find a chance to kill him while he was in a good mood. The fire origin was the foundation of his light escape art. There was no reason for him to leave it to others. However, the fire origin fruit was worthy of being called a mysterious object. It wasn't something a late foundation establishment cultivator like Qian Yuhua could take. Moreover, the fire origin was flying toward Xiaohua. How could Qian Yuhua not have other thoughts? Qian Yuhua looked at Xiaohua and the flames around Xiaohua's body and laughed. Great, great. Xiaohua, is your body covered in flames the reason the fire essence is looking for you? Your physique is exactly the same as this old man's. This old man has been gathering gold cores for nearly 100 years and all kinds of methods have failed. I didn't expect that today, not only would I encounter the fire essence of my dreams, but you would also be able to see this old man. Since this is the case, this old man won't hide anything. Obediently surrender and allow this old man to seize your body. Since you obtained the fire essence, wouldn't it also be mine? Seize my body? When Xiaohua heard this, his heart tightened for no reason. Suddenly, a monstrous hatred appeared in his chest. It was as if he was extremely resentful of the word, seize. Senior has been dealing with the flame essence all this time, leaving this junior out of the picture. I think you've always had this idea. Xiaohua sneered and said, this junior was still hoping that senior would let this junior live. Ha! Xiaohua, you're too naive. Qian Yuhua laughed. The fire essence is a heaven-defying treasure. Since this old man obtained it, I must rely on it to step into foundation establishment and gold core. Even nascent soul is not impossible. How could I let others know such a secret? Then, the several qi refining disciples who died in the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden were all senior's handiwork. Xiaohua's heart stirred. The other disciples? Qian Yuhua was stunned. He waved his hand and said, this old man only cares about the fire essence. What do those disciples have to do with me? If you hadn't encountered the fire essence, this old man might not have taken your life. Humph! Xiaohua snorted. How could he believe this? What was the difference between seizing his body and taking his life? Senior wants to seize my body? Hee, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Xiaohua pointed with his finger, and the cloud-suppressing seal emitted a faint rumbling sound. It shrunk once again. Ha, you're just a qi-refining disciple. This old man is at the peak of foundation establishment. Although seizing your body isn't as easy as seizing your body by a gold core cultivator, the chances of success are still quite high. This old man's lifespan is about to end. Why would I care about these things? Qian Yuhua slapped his forehead and released the pressure of a late foundation establishment cultivator. It was like a huge boulder pressing down from above. Feeling the incomparably heavy pressure, Xiaohua sighed inwardly. The reason why qi-refining cultivators were said to not have set foot on the path of cultivation was because they didn't have any pressure. In front of a foundation establishment cultivator, they had no power to fight back. As long as he reached foundation establishment, even if he was only at the early stage, his pressure should be able to resist Qian Yuhua for a while. I'll let you see this young master's power. Xiaohua also smiled coldly. That smile looked very strange in the flames around him. Xiaohua's body shook, and a phoenix battle form that was also surrounded by flames appeared. As soon as the phoenix Dharma body appeared, it immediately spread its several zhang long wings. With a screech, the Dharma body emitted a desolate aura that blocked Qian Yuhua's pressure in midair. Xiaohua felt that he couldn't move a moment ago. Although there was still a bit of pressure around his body, it was much stronger than when he first used the Vajra Dharma body to block it. This bit of pressure was practically nothing. Ah? You actually have a true spirit bloodline? Qian Yuhua was shocked. Aren't you a rogue cultivator? Go! Xiaohua didn't waste time talking nonsense with him. The phoenix Dharma body spread its wings and clawed at Qian Yuhua. Its golden claws were dazzling in the dense fire spiritual energy. With a whoosh, the phoenix Dharma body's claws streaked across the air and struck Qian Yuhua's forehead. Ignorant! Qian Yuhua sneered. He raised his left hand and a foot-long thunder palm struck the phoenix Dharma body's claws. The thunder palm's power was so great that it actually pushed the phoenix Dharma body's claws several inches higher. The phoenix Dharma body let out another screech and flapped its wings, attacking Qian Yuhua's body from the left and right. At the same time, Xiaohua's cloud-suppressing seal also flew through the air. As Xiaohua formed a seal, the cloud-suppressing seal trembled in the air. Several clouds fell from the cloud-suppressing seal and smashed toward Qian Yuhua with lightning speed. Ha! Qian Yuhua laughed in the face of Xiaohua's attack. If a tiger doesn't show its might, you'll think it's a sick cat. As he spoke, he shook his arms. His Taoist robe flashed with brilliance. As the robe rose, it actually blocked the phoenix Dharma body's wings, making a dull sound. Alas, as expected of a late foundation establishment cultivator. Xiaohua felt the same as the phoenix Dharma body. He immediately felt the dense spiritual energy in the Taoist robe. This spiritual energy was born from true essence and was far from what Xiaohua could compare to. Even though the phoenix Dharma body was powerful, it couldn't break through Qian Yuhua's defense. On one hand, Xiaohua was still using the phoenix Dharma body to resist Qian Yuhua's pressure and harass him. On the other hand, Xiaohua was using the cloud-suppressing seal, hoping to win with a magic treasure. Your magic treasure is a bit strange. Qian Yuhua immediately sensed the boundless karma of the cloud-suppressing seal, and a strange expression appeared on his face. However, it was only a slight change. He activated a secret cultivation method in his body and the karma disappeared without a trace. Moreover, Qian Yuhua waved the sun leaf fan in his hand, and the surrounding fire spirit qi was immediately driven by the sun leaf fan. It then turned into a fire dragon and rushed toward the clouds scattered by the cloud-suppressing seal. Chapter 1812. Whoosh! A burst of flames burned the seal. The clouds first turned red, then crimson. In the blink of an eye, they turned into nothingness as if they were burned by the flames. Xiaohua's expression changed. This was the first time he met an opponent with the cloud-suppressing seal. However, he didn't doubt that if Qian Yuhua was killed by the seal, he wouldn't be a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. While he was thinking, Xiaohua rubbed his hands and released dozens of clouds from the cloud-suppressing seal, which continued to smash towards Qian Yuhua. He waved his hand again and the cloud-suppressing seal flew back. Xiaohua's figure rose up and grabbed the cloud-suppressing seal with his hand. With a loud shout, he first poured his spiritual energy into the cloud-suppressing seal. Then, just like the Vajradharma body, he gathered all his strength and smashed the cloud-suppressing seal towards Qian Yuhua. Qian Yuhua still had a smile on his face. He waved his Taoist robe to block the phoenix celestial body while gently fanning his yang leaf fan. Raging flames surged from the fan and melted the clouds of the cloud-suppressing seal. However, when the cloud-suppressing seal attacked again, the whistling wind and the faint deterrence of a Dharma treasure caused Qian Yuhua to frown. Qian Yuhua moved. He actually used the hibernating thunder escape. Before the cloud-suppressing seal smashed into his defense, he quickly dodged to the side. Contrary to Qian Yuhua's expectations, the seal didn't miss. Instead, it followed his body and smashed towards him without any decrease in momentum. Oh, is this a spirit tool? Qian Yuhua was stunned. Bam! The cloud-suppressing seal smashed into his arm that he couldn't dodge in time. Ouch! Qian Yuhua cried out in pain. The light on his arm flickered as if it was on the verge of being annihilated. Moreover, as the cloud-suppressing seal was raised, palm-sized fragments fell from his Taoist robe. Whoosh! Qian Yuhua waved his hand and a dragon-like flame shot out from his yang leaf fan. It surged around the seal and pushed it into the air. Hiss! Qian Yuhua couldn't help but groan. He looked at his injured arm with shame and anger. He urged his magic power and the light on his arm surged again to protect him. However, the arm that was injured by the suppressing cloud seal was still in pain. Xiaohua, this old man, still underestimated you. Qian Yuhua grinned evilly, but his eyes flashed with satisfaction and joy. The more outstanding Xiaohua's cultivation was, the more valuable it would be to possess him. How could he not be happy? Sigh, magic power, magic power. Xiaohua watched as Qian Yuhua took out 2 medicinal pills from his storage pouch. He swallowed one and chewed the other before spraying it on his arm. He knew that although the cloud-suppressing seal was effective, it didn't have much of an effect. Moreover, the cloud-suppressing seal was severely burned by the surging fire clouds. It flipped several times and couldn't be lowered. He couldn't help but sigh at the difference between true essence and true qi. When Qian Yuhua waved his Taoist robe and blocked Xiaohua's phoenix celestial body, Xiaohua clenched his teeth and flew towards Qian Yuhua. Seeing Xiaohua flying towards him, Qian Yuhua was delighted. Just as he was about to cast a spell, he frowned and glanced down. You have a lot of things, don't you? This old man forgot about you, puppet. The snake-shaped puppet flew towards Qian Yuhua's feet at the same time as Xiaohua, opening its mouth to bite Qian Yuhua's foot. Go! Qian Yuhua naturally didn't think that the puppet would really bite him. He kicked his foot slightly and a hazy light flew out. Not only did it block the puppet's path, but it also sent it flying to the side. At this time, Xiaohua had also flown to Qian Yuhua's left side. Xiaohua waved his hand as if he was taking something out of his storage pouch. A rather large devil hammer appeared in his hand. As Xiaohua waved it, a wind several times fiercer than the cloud-suppressing seal appeared and smashed towards Qian Yuhua. Demonic weapon? Qian Yuhua was completely shocked. He didn't expect Xiaohua to have so many hidden methods. In a hurry, he waved his left hand and cast several spells, instantly setting up several fiery red defenses in front of him. Pa, 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 pa. The demonic hammer hit the top of Qian Yuhua's defense. It was like smashing glass. The defense shattered into sparks and fell to the ground. I've underestimated you. Qian Yuhua was startled. Seeing that the demonic hammer was about to hit his arm again, Qian Yuhua hurriedly used the hibernating lightning escape to dodge to the side. But at this moment, a red and green sword light suddenly flew out of the snake-shaped puppet that he had just knocked aside. It fiercely blocked the direction in which he wanted to dodge. A flying sword? Qian Yuhua knew with a sweep of his divine sense. Moreover, the boundless negative karma from the dream executioner was making the mental cultivation method in his body feel strained. Qian Yuhua knew how powerful the demonic hammer was and didn't dare to take it head-on like before. He still retreated towards the dream executioner, but with a wave of his Taoist robe, several fiery red lights appeared and blocked the dream executioner's sword. I'll let you have a taste of my power. The demonic hammer in Xiaohua's hand didn't change. His other hand formed a sword seal, and a red and green sword light instantly split into 8. 4 of them were blocked by the red brilliance, while the other 4 pierced into Qian Yuhua's Taoist robe at an extremely fast speed. Poof! The 4 sword lights stabbed into Qian Yuhua's armpits at the same time. As the Dream Executioner's sword light surged, the light on Qian Yuhua's Taoist robe flashed violently. Qian Yuhua felt that something was wrong and immediately flew up. The Dream Executioner was actually able to pierce through Qian Yuhua's Taoist robe. It could probably leave 4 bloody marks on Qian Yuhua's body. Go! Xiao Hua was overjoyed and also flew up. The demonic hammer was still aimed at Qian Yuhua's leg. The Dream Executioner paused in midair and then flew up again to chase after Qian Yuhua. Forget it! Seeing how powerful Xiao Hua was, Qian Yuhua's playful mood was long gone. He wanted to protect Xiao Hua's body and take over his body. Qian Yuhua waved his hand and several fire dragons flew towards Xiao Hua and the Dream Executioner. Qian Yuhua flew to the side and first took a pill to heal himself. Then he stood in midair and pondered. The flames of the Yangye fan were indeed powerful. It actually blocked the Dream Executioner. Xiao Hua also had some misgivings. When the fire dragons flew towards him, he used the demonic hammer to break them apart. He didn't chase after them. During this brief pause, Xiao Hua suddenly felt a burning sensation on his back. Without any hesitation, Xiao Hua dodged to the left. He had almost forgotten that there was a fire essence chasing after him in the eastern ridge. Although it was a good thing, Xiao Hua didn't know how to use it. If he rashly came into contact with it, he would definitely be burned into nothingness like Qian Yuhua's Dharma artifact earlier. Chapter 1813. Haha. Qian Yuhua laughed from afar. Naturally, he saw the fire essence flying towards him and stopped to see if Xiao Hua was hit. When he saw Xiao Hua dodge, he slapped his hand and took out a long sword from his storage pouch. A magic tool? Xiao Hua was vigilant, but when he saw Qian Yuhua take out a magic tool, he couldn't help but be stunned. However, Qian Yuhua didn't care about Xiao Hua's doubts at all. His figure once again flew toward Xiao Hua. He waved his yang leaf fan to block the cloud-suppressing seal with one hand and slowly swung his long sword with the other. As the long sword danced, a shadow of the long sword emerged from the long sword. It gathered Qian Yuhua's magic power and pressed down on Xiao Hua with an earth-shattering force. Ah? Isn't this a magic tool? Xiao Hua was shocked and blurted out. Ha, ignorant child. Qian Yuhua sneered and waved his Taoist robe, releasing a large amount of light to block the Dream Executioner. With your magic power, what's the difference between using a magic tool with my magic power? Don't think that any magic tool is good. Xiao Hua didn't dare to be careless. Seeing the sword phantoms flying towards him, he knew Qian Yuhua wasn't lying. Qian Yuhua's magic power was indeed profound. Although Xiao Hua's magic power wasn't inferior to that of a mid-foundation establishment cultivator, it was only true qi in his meridians and not true essence. Even if it was true essence, Qian Yuhua was a peak foundation establishment cultivator. Xiao Hua hurriedly brandished his devil hammer, wanting to block the sword images. Ka, as several ear-splitting sounds rang out as the sword images all landed on the devil hammer. A huge force was transmitted from the devil hammer, shaking Xiao Hua back in the air. Xiao Hua had always used strength to break magic. Now that he met Qian Yuhua, who used magic power to exchange for strength, Xiao Hua had no choice but to suffer in front of Qian Yuhua's powerful magic power. Magic power and strength were both ordinary. Sometimes, it depended on who was more powerful. Qian Yuhua laughed heartily when he saw that his sword had succeeded. He used the hibernating lightning escape to catch up with Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua's figure moved. He wanted to use the bright thunder escape, but he resisted and still used ordinary flying techniques. He fled left and right, using the demonic hammer to block the long sword while commanding the phoenix battle form to continue fighting Qian Yuhua. In the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, Xiao Hua was in danger several times. His phoenix celestial body was also shattered by Qian Yuhua's long sword, and he was almost caught up by the fire origin. It still won't work. Xiao Hua tried his best to resist while thinking to himself, this guy's magic power is deeper than mine. I don't see any signs of exhaustion at this moment. Moreover, the defense around his body is also very tight. My method? I'm afraid it might not be effective. Even though Dream Executioner can't hurt him, he can still wear down his defenses. This young master will have to endure for a while longer. After making up his mind, Xiao Hua's eyes turned. He felt that the Devil Hammer didn't have any advantage over Qian Yuhua's sword. Moreover, although his magic power couldn't compare to Qian Yuhua's, he still had a lot of fire from the Fire Marrow Flame crystal in his meridians. Why couldn't he speed up the tempering process? With that thought in mind, Xiao Hua put away the demonic hammer, clapped his hands, and took out the Yang Leaf fan. Aha! Xiao Hua, you also have the Yang Leaf fan? Qian Yuhua grinned. You're only an aura-refining disciple, yet you dare to compete with me with a magic weapon? How do you know who's stronger if you don't try? Xiao Hua sneered. The dragonization art in his body sped up, and the Prairie Blaze Heart Sutra in his meridians sped up the tempering of the flames. The true qi generated turned into magic power and rushed into the Yang Leaf fan. With a whoosh, Xiao Hua waved the Yang Leaf fan just like Qian Yuhua. A fire dragon that wasn't inferior to Qian Yuhua's flew out from the Yang Leaf fan and rushed into Qian Yuhua's sword shadow. Strange. Seeing the power of the Yang Leaf fan, Qian Yuhua was shocked. He was already shocked when Xiao Hua used the cloud-suppressing seal several times to block his Yang Leaf fan. He didn't expect Xiao Hua to take out another magic weapon. Even he, a peak foundation establishment cultivator, couldn't use two magic weapons at the same time. This guy. Qian Yuhua's shock didn't disappear. He thought Xiao Hua was using a secret technique to summon the Yang Leaf fan as a last-ditch struggle. He thought he only needed to hold on for a while, and Xiao Hua's magic power would be exhausted and he would lose without a fight. He didn't expect Xiao Hua to not only use the cloud-suppressing seal to entangle his Yang Leaf fan, but he also used the Dream Executioner to wear down his defense bit by bit. In the end, the Yang Leaf fan successfully blocked his sword dance. Qian Yuhua knew that his divine sense was limited and he couldn't use two magic weapons at the same time. Therefore, he specifically looked for a suitable magic weapon for the sword dance. This sword dance had accompanied him for over 100 years, and its power wasn't inferior to an ordinary magic weapon. Just now, when he fought with Xiao Hua's Devil Hammer, he saw its power. However, when Xiao Hua first waved the Sun Leaf fan, it was still a little obscure. The fire dragon in the Sun Leaf fan was slightly damaged, and the power of the flames was far from being comparable to Qian Yuhua's Sun Leaf fan. It was difficult to deal with the sword shadows of the sword dance. Occasionally, some of the sword shadows would break through the flames and attack Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua had no choice but to use some strange movement skills to dodge the sword shadows. However, after a long time, Qian Yuhua felt something was wrong. The fire dragon flying out of the Yang Leaf fan became more and more round. Although the fire couldn't compare to his Yang Leaf fan, Xiao Hua's magic power didn't show any signs of exhaustion. This guy's magic power, could it be related to the flames around his body? Qian Yuhua thought to himself. As soon as he entered the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden's magic array, he felt that the fire spiritual energy here was too rich, and Xiao Hua's body was surrounded by flames. Naturally, he had his suspicions, but he couldn't ask why. At this time, he naturally linked the two together. However, even if he knew something was wrong, Qian Yuhua wouldn't retreat. His thoughts were the same as Xiao Hua's. This flame essence was something he had to obtain. Moreover, Xiao Hua was an aura-refining cultivator, so there was no way he could escape. Therefore, a very strange situation occurred. One was a peak foundation establishment cultivator, and the other was a peak aura-refining cultivator. Unexpectedly, they were locked in a fierce battle in the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden. What was even more strange was that the peak aura-refining disciple was using two magic weapons, 8 sword lights, and a dharma body. He wasn't at a disadvantage at all. Moreover, the magic weapon in the aura-refining disciple's hand was exactly the same as the Foundation Establishment Cultivator's magic weapon. The two sides were evenly matched in their battle. Perhaps it was because both sides had the intention to fight, but Xiaohua was still dodging the fire essence from time to time. The battle between the two quickly went on for a day and a night. During this day and night, the two had consumed a lot of magic power. The flames around Xiaohua's body had somewhat withered, not having 70% of their previous strength. Qian Yuhua had also taken many medicinal pills, so he was barely able to cope with the current situation. After such a long battle, Qian Yuhua finally understood that the Xiaohua in front of him was not as simple as the Xiaohua he had inquired about. If he wasn't a peak foundation establishment cultivator and only lacked the opportunity to condense his core, he would have already been defeated by Xiaohua's endless magic power. Seeing that Xiaohua's magic power didn't show any signs of weakening, and his own magic power was nearly exhausted, and his protective magic weapon was nearly worn out by the dream executioner, Qian Yuhua unconsciously wanted to retreat. But at that moment, a strange change occurred. Xiaohua circulated his arcane energy and waved the sun leaf fan with all his might. Most of his arcane energy was formed from his own true qi, and some of it was formed from the fire marrow flame crystals that he had yet to refine. After a long period of fighting, the sun leaf fan in his hand could no longer withstand the pressure. As he waved, the sun leaf fan first emitted a strand of orange light, igniting itself. "This is bad." Seeing this, Xiaohua couldn't help but complain. He threw away the yang leaf fan and immediately took out the aquamarine pearl from his space. However, right now the Eastern Ridge is the world of fire-type spiritual energy. Xiaohua also has the fire origin chasing after him. And not to mention the fire-type spiritual energy in Xiaohua's meridians, this aqua blue pearl can only display 20% of its power. The blue watery light couldn't block the sword dance, and several sword lights fell on Xiaohua's shoulders. With a zeng-zeng sound, the spiritual armor on Xiaohua's body emitted a fiery red brilliance and blocked the sword lights. Oh my, he also has a magic weapon. Qian Yuhua was already used to this, but he was still a bit surprised. This is it. Qian Yuhua took advantage of the moment when Xiaohua withdrew the aquamarine pearl and took out the demonic hammer to throw the sword dance. It turned into a bolt of lightning and pierced toward Xiaohua's face. Then, he clapped his hands and took out a shiny talisman. Qian Yuhua spat a mouthful of essence blood on the talisman, and the talisman turned purple. "Go!" Qian Yuhua's face darkened. He chanted a mantra, and the magic energy in his body surged into the talisman. The talisman turned into a 3-meter-long purple-red hand that grabbed at Xiaohua like a giant boulder. Ah? The giant purple hand carried an incomparable might, making Xiaohua feel like he couldn't resist. Moreover, under the giant hand, his whole body seemed to be imprisoned, making it impossible for him to resist. Xiaohua wanted to use his phoenix avatar to block the giant hand, but the giant hand was too fast, and his avatar was on the other side of Qian Yuhua. Dang! The sword dance hit Xiaohua's hastily taken out demonic hammer, and Xiaohua's figure was knocked down several feet. Alright, success or failure, let's do it again. Seeing that Qian Yuhua's giant hand talisman was something he couldn't contend against, and then seeing that Qian Yuhua was a bit weak after using the talisman, Xiaohua steeled his heart and waved the devil hammer in his hand. His body suddenly moved, and the bright thunder escape that he had been holding back for a long time suddenly erupted. He rushed towards Qian Yuhua like a meteor. Ah? Bright thunder escape? Qian Yuhua's shock was not as great as before. He clearly saw that the bright thunder escape he had dreamed of was actually used by a peak qi refinement disciple. The bright thunder escape was indeed worthy of its reputation. Even as Qian Yuhua tried to use the hibernating thunder escape to escape, Xiaohua was already in front of him. Chapter 1814. Qian Yuhua was shocked when he saw the devil hammer flying toward him, but he didn't panic. Although the devil hammer was heavy and Xiaohua was strong, it couldn't break through his magic power defense. Sure enough, with a muffled bang, Qian Yuhua's body flashed with brilliance. Qian Yuhua had only used a bit of magic power, but the giant hand in the air was already chasing after him. Xiaohua's body could no longer move. Right at this moment, Xiaohua opened his mouth slightly, and another red and green ray of light shot out from his mouth. Qian Yuhua heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the same sword light. Although this sword light was aimed in the direction of the devil hammer, which was also where his heart was, he had no doubt that his protective treasure would be able to block it. Therefore, Qian Yuhua's gaze landed on the purple-red giant hand with ease. He poured all of his magic power into the giant hand. This was his last resort and also a life-saving measure. He would not use it until the last moment. If Xiaohua had not been so strong today, he would not have used his blood essence. For a cultivator like him who was close to the end of his life, blood essence was much more precious than magic power. Seeing that the huge hand was about to land on Xiaohua's immobile back, Qian Yuhua's body also flashed with a protective brilliance. However, the moment the brilliance flashed, the cyan-red flying sword suddenly burst into an abnormally brilliant fiery red color. The originally insignificant flying sword's aura instantly soared by more than 10 times. Qian Yuhua's magic power defense only resisted for a moment before it was completely destroyed. Not good. Qian Yuhua's divine sense could not follow the flying sword. Seeing the abnormality with the flying sword, he immediately used his divine sense secret technique and did not hesitate to use all of his magic power to mend the pen after the sheep was lost. Unfortunately, the consumable magic treasure that Xiaohua had hidden for a day and a night was refined by a golden core cultivator. Its power was too overbearing. Qian Yuhua's divine sense had only just touched the magic treasure. Even his right hand gave up on resisting the phoenix celestial body and tried to grab the magic treasure. All of this was in vain. The magic treasure hummed and disappeared into Qian Yuhua's body. With a muffled bang, a large bloody hole appeared in Qian Yuhua's chest. Not only was there a hole in his magic treasure, but his chest was also pierced through. Ah! Qian Yuhua's eyes were filled with disbelief. He stared at Xiaohua's joyful face and slightly raised his finger. He was still somewhat unwilling to fall from the sky. At the same time, the joy on Xiaohua's face disappeared as his body suddenly fell. He paid the price of falling into the trap to kill Qian Yuhua, but this trap had already landed on his back. With a loud bang, the huge hand struck Xiaohua's back at an extremely fast speed. Xiaohua's back was instantly covered with a flash of lightning. The defensive effect of the protective armor on his back had taken effect. However, the giant hand's power was too great. Following a series of crackling sounds, all of the lightning was extinguished by the giant hand. Xiaohua screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was even faster than Qian Yuhua's corpse as he was smashed into the mountain rocks of the eastern mountain. After the giant hand hit Xiaohua, a golden light flashed and it turned into a tattered spirit talisman. It floated down from the sky and floated down. Coincidentally, the fire origin also caught up with Xiaohua. Xiaohua spat out a mouthful of blood into the pitch-black void, and at the same time the red blood was burned away, the golden threads within the blood also entered the fire origin, disappearing without a trace. Then, the fire origin changed its direction and flew towards Xiaohua. Xiaohua's entire body was smashed into the mountain rocks. He only felt his vision darken, and he almost fainted. Before he could even groan and move his hands and feet, a scorching heat descended from the sky, pouncing towards his back. Damn it! Is there an end to this? Xiaohua bitterly smiled and forcefully circulated his true qi and magic power. His body flew down the mountain rocks. Who would have thought that after the fire essence obtained the golden threads in Xiaohua's blood, its movement speed would actually increase? It followed Xiaohua and flew down. The mountain rocks it touched were all turned into magma in an instant. Most of them were also vaporized. Oh my god, this fire essence, how powerful is it? Xiaohua grasped the fire essence's speed and flew in front while secretly looking back. He was shocked. How do I temper such a ferocious thing in the world? Xiaohua thought about the light escape technique in his heart. It seemed to only talk about practicing the 5 elements escape technique, tempering the 7 colors of the bones, and using the 5 elements to temper the bones. As for how to temper the bones and how to use the 5 elements, it didn't mention a single word. It was as if it was an extremely easy and simple matter that was not worth mentioning. The only thing a cultivation technique needed to provide was a direction to practice. As for how to practice, it was a trivial matter. Damn it! What kind of cultivation technique is this? Xiao Hua felt as if he had boarded a pirate ship. This was the fire essence that even a late-stage foundation establishment realm cultivator was helpless against. He wanted to temper it into his bones. How ridiculous was this? Oh right, since this foundation establishment realm cultivator came to collect the fire essence, he must have made a lot of preparations. This young master doesn't understand, but I can look for his jade slip. Xiao Hua suddenly realized and immediately flew to the side of Qian Yuhua's corpse. He took out the giant hand talisman and his storage pouch. There were many things in Qian Yuhua's storage pouch. Xiao Hua only took a rough look. He first took out the jade slip and looked at it for a long time. Finally, he found the content he wanted to know in an inconspicuous and mottled jade slip. However, when he finished reading the contents, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Alas, this guy, he really died in vain. Xiao Hua smacked his lips and looked at Qian Yuhua's corpse. He threw a fireball at it and shook his head. No wonder this guy called the fire essence when he saw it. It turns out this guy thought it was a fire essence flame crystal. This method of using the fire essence is similar to this young master's method and Zhong Yao's method. This cultivation technique can't temper a fire essence flame crystal. If this young master let him take away the fire essence, he would definitely be burned to a crisp by the fire essence. Xiao Hua thought without malice. But soon after, he became worried. This fire origin was like a small tail that couldn't be shaken off. It followed him from underground to the surface, and then from the surface to the air. No matter how he tried, he couldn't shake it off. Moreover, Xiao Hua also tried using the bright thunder escape to fly to another part of the Eastern Medicine Garden in a short period of time. But although the fire origin was moving slowly, the direction it was flying in wasn't slow at all. Xiao Hua simply couldn't shake it off. Chapter 1815. This is good. Xiao Hua was helpless. If he didn't deal with the fire origin, he wouldn't be able to go anywhere. He could only fly around the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden and play with the fire origin. Qian Yuhua's corpse had already been incinerated, leaving only a 1-foot-long spirit armor on the ground. Xiao Hua took the time to put away the spirit armor and saw a hole the size of a baby's fist in the middle of the armor. It was Xiao Hua's consumable artifact that broke it. Fortunately, I had the magic tool refined by a golden core cultivator. Xiao Hua still had some lingering fear. If it weren't for that magic tool, he would have been imprisoned by the golden hand. His life and death wouldn't have been up to him. Not necessarily. Don't I also have a spiritual armor? Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and thought to himself. He then put away Qian Yuhua's sword, Yiyang fan, and the talisman he used before. Afterward, he looked at the ground and saw that there were no more traces of Qian Yuhua. Only then did he think about how to deal with the fire origin. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua didn't know how many methods he came up with, but he didn't have absolute confidence. This thing couldn't be tested, so Xiao Hua could only fly around the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden. After flying for a day and a night, when the first ray of sunlight shone on Xiao Hua's body from the eastern horizon, he took in a breath of the sun's essence. When his gaze fell on his flying shadow on the ground, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Could it be? Immediately after, the scene of his mind seeing the light escape technique appeared in his mind. It was a figure that looked like a human, but not a human. It was currently raising its hands and gesturing with its feet. Xiao Hua couldn't understand its movements. Big Dipper Divine Fist? Xiao Hua somewhat understood. But, if I practice the Big Dipper Divine Fist on my own, then how will I refine the fire origin? Xiao Hua was confused again. However, he could not do it. His current thoughts were the closest to the truth. Moreover, they were somewhat similar to the light escape technique. After contending with the fire origin for a while, Xiao Hua landed on the ground. He looked at the fire origin and held his breath. When he was about 1 qi away from the fire origin, Xiaohua spread his arms and moved his feet on the ground. This was the starting stance of the Big Dipper God Fist. As Xiaohua struck out with the Big Dipper God Fist, a warm current emerged from Xiaohua's left foot and began to slowly temper his bones along with his moves. Xiaohua stared at the gradually approaching pitch-black hole. He was waiting for anything to go wrong, and he would immediately jump up. However, a miraculous scene appeared. The origin of fire first slowly flew towards Xiaohua's body, and Xiaohua could almost feel the incomparable heat of the origin of fire. Just as Xiaohua was about to give up, the origin of fire actually slowed down and finally stopped. There's hope. Xiaohua was overjoyed. He didn't dare to stop his starting stance, and immediately followed up with the second move. However, the second move required him to use his fist. If the fire origin didn't move, Xiaohua probably wouldn't be able to use the second move. At this moment, the fire origin moved, as if there was a suction force emerging from the bottom of Xiaohua's left foot. The fire origin rushed into the ground at an even faster speed than before. Soon after, it followed Xiaohua's bones, where the warm current had appeared and entered. Ah! Suddenly, a pain that Xiaohua had never felt before came from his left foot. The fire origin seemed to be melting Xiaohua's bones inch by inch. Inch by inch, the bones were peeled off from Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua's entire body was trembling. Beads of sweat, which had never appeared before, covered his entire body. The Eastern Ridge's medicinal garden was no longer in front of his eyes. His entire body seemed to have fallen into a scorching, tearing space. Xiaohua's arms and legs were trembling. He was almost unable to continue with the Big Dipper Divine Fist, but his heart was like a mirror. The Big Dipper Divine Fist was his life-saving straw. At this moment, it was different from usual. He couldn't be the slightest bit careless. As long as there was a single mistake in the Big Dipper Divine Fist, the fire origin would immediately turn his bones into nothingness. Therefore, he forced himself to endure, and his teeth creaked as he clenched them. Unfortunately, Xiaohua was an aura-refining cultivator after all. His patience was really limited. As his arms trembled, the warm current faintly seemed to be about to stop. In his panic, Xiaohua suddenly remembered the Buddhist sect's Vajra Dharma body. Now, he couldn't care too much. His body shook, and the Phoenix Dharma body immediately broke free from his body. With a resounding cry, it spread its wings in midair. As soon as the Phoenix Dharma body appeared, the pain in Xiaohua's bones seemed to lessen by half. The warm current continued to move forward. Great! Xiaohua was overjoyed. At the same time, the Buddhist sect's Heart Sutra began to circulate without caring about anything else. The Phoenix Dharma body also began to dance along with Xiaohua's fighting god fist in midair. The Heart Sutra that Xiaohua used was naturally wrong. It didn't have any benefits for the Phoenix Dharma body's cultivation. However, it was quite effective in eliminating the pain. Moreover, as the Heart Sutra circulated, the 132 million slightly condensed dots in the Phoenix Dharma body actually slowly pulled apart. The entire Phoenix Dharma body gradually grew larger. Since the pain had lessened, Xiaohua's heart also calmed down. Although the bones seemed to disappear every time the fire origin passed by, Xiaohua still stood on the eastern ridge and continued to perform the Big Dipper magical fist. Therefore, Xiaohua was very much looking forward to seeing what the fire origin would look like after tempering the bones. Xiaohua might be able to see it with his delirium eyes, but he didn't have time to spare at this moment. The pitch-black collapse of the fire origin passed through Xiaohua's bones. Every time it passed, Xiaohua's bones, which had already returned to their original gray-white color, once again turned scarlet red. However, this scarlet red color was only 99%. Moreover, the scarlet red color wasn't spread evenly. The scarlet red color was formed by thin red threads. The pitch-black collapse passed through the bones, and the bones that passed through all emitted a transparent color. The red threads began to spread and began to merge with each other. It was as if the red color was gradually sprinkling on Xiaohua's bones. However, the fire origin passed through too quickly. The red fusion wasn't completely uniform, and also didn't completely fill up all the white areas. Very quickly, the 108 moves of the Big Dipper magical fist were finished. Xiaohua didn't dare to stop. With a wave of his hand, he began to perform the Big Dipper magical fist from the end to the end. The fire origin followed the warm current and tempered the bones once again. When the complete Big Dipper magical fist was finished, Xiaohua faintly felt that the pain had lessened by a bit. Moreover, he could also feel that his bones had also improved a bit. Continue. Xiaohua made a decision without the slightest hesitation. His hands and feet didn't stop as he continued to perform the Big Dipper magical fist. Over and over again, every time he struck, the heart-wrenching pain would lessen a little bit, and his bones would appear a little bit more. After striking 360 times, which was the number of cycles, the pain finally disappeared without a trace. The instant Xiaohua stopped, an incomparably comfortable feeling spread out from his bones. Xiaohua felt as if he was about to ascend to the heavens, as if he was about to become an immortal. At this time, all the bones in Xiaohua's body were completely red. Moreover, they were almost red and transparent. Roar, Xiaohua didn't hesitate to let out a long roar. Following his long roar, the Phoenix Dharma body, which was already 10 zhang in size, also let out a long roar. Ha! Xiaohua laughed loudly. Just as he was about to withdraw his Dharma body, pain came from the bones of his left foot again. This pain was different from before. It was actually the pain of his flesh being torn apart. Damn it, Xiaohua grimaced and cursed. Is it not done again? Fortunately, Xiaohua had already experienced incomparable pain just now. This pain was still bearable. Knowing that the Big Dipper magical fist wouldn't work anymore, Xiaohua simply sat down cross-legged, just like when he was refining the fire essence and flame crystal. He still operated the Buddhist Heart Sutra and let the Phoenix Dharma body cultivate outside his body. The fire origin was also strange. The path it traveled was very regular. It started from one of the small dots in Xiaohua's body, one after another, one after another. Everywhere it passed, the small black dot would give birth to a wisp of black flame. Then, the flame would be annihilated by the black dot. As the flame was annihilated, the black dot turned red, the same color as Xiaohua's bones. After an unknown amount of time, the fire origin passed through all the 132 million small dots that made up Xiaohua's body. These small dots all turned red. But this wasn't the end. Just as the last small dot turned red, the fire origin actually flew out of Xiaohua's body and rushed towards the Phoenix Dharma body. At this time, the Phoenix Dharma body was already 20 zhang in size. When the fire origin entered the Phoenix Dharma body also shook violently and almost collapsed in an instant. Xiaohua felt the same way. His entire body trembled again. Buddhist sect, Buddhist sect. Xiaohua couldn't help but tremble. He shouted in his heart and did his best to operate the Buddhist Heart Sutra. The time taken was several times longer than before, and the fire origin had also walked through the 132 million virtual points of the Phoenix celestial body. The small dots of the Phoenix Dharma body were originally empty. After passing through the fire essence and flame crystal, they showed signs of condensing. At this time, they had completely condensed and emitted a bewitching red brilliance. This time, it should be over, right? Xiaohua didn't have much confidence in himself. This was because he knew that the heat of the fire origin source was still in the Phoenix Dharma body. If this heat didn't disappear, then the fire origin source wouldn't be used up. Sure enough, the fire origin rushed into Xiaohua's meridians. Xiaohua almost cried. The pain of bones melting and flesh tearing had passed. Now, it was time for the pain of meridians splitting. Helpless, Xiaohua clenched his teeth and didn't withdraw the Phoenix Dharma body back into his body. The dragon transformation art circulated. This dragon transformation art was originally circulated automatically by Xiaohua using the blood shadow art. At this time, under Xiaohua's gaze, the fire origin followed the circulation of the dragon transformation art and unhurriedly tore apart Xiaohua's originally incomparably tough meridians. Chapter 1816. Fortunately, it was night at this time. When Xiaohua closed his eyes, the stars in the sky shrouded him as usual. The power of the stars in the sky nourished Xiaohua's meridians like rain, causing them to once again be tenacious between tearing and healing. Of course, after being tempered by the fire origin, Xiaohua's original meridians were completely integrated with the dragon vein, forming a single meridian. And this meridian was covered with crimson, just like a fire dragon. After an unknown period of time, all of Xiaohua's meridians were completely tempered. However, just as the fire origin was about to pass through the hidden meridians and rush into the middle dantian that was connected to the meridians, a mysterious fluctuation suddenly appeared in Xiaohua's space. Heavenly Tao? Xiaohua was shocked. He clearly felt that this fluctuation had a great connection with the heavenly Tao that he would take time to comprehend every day. As soon as the fire origin touched this fluctuation, it immediately rushed into Xiaohua's space as if it had heard its mother's call. Its speed was much faster than before. Pain. Xiaohua felt the heat all the way up, and there was only one thought in his mind. Oh no, there's still one more. When the fire origin reached the Buddha fire, Xiaohua suddenly remembered that he still had the empty shell of the spirit fire in the demon realm. Now that he had the fire origin, wouldn't he be able to ignite the spirit fire? In a flash, Xiaohua quickly moved the spirit fire to the fire origin. With a tang, the entire spirit fire was ignited, showing an extremely pure red color. The red color was so pure that it was almost transparent, and it was so beautiful that it could frighten people's souls. Great! Xiaohua saw that the spirit fire was ignited, and he was overjoyed. He placed the spirit fire back into his body to nourish it, and then paid attention to the fire origin. Since then, he had obtained endless benefits from the fire origin source, and he was already extremely satisfied. However, based on his intuition, Xiaohua felt that the fire origin source hadn't been consumed much. In fact, it was as if it hadn't been consumed at all. Since it was not consumed, how could Xiaohua send the fire origin away? Could it enter the space? Oh no, little yellow. My spiritual grass. My spirit stones. Xiaohua suddenly thought that the fire origin was so hot, as long as it entered the space, wouldn't everything turn into nothingness? What should we do? The space is filled with Xiaohua's treasures. Xiaohua panicked. He quickly immersed his consciousness into the space, wanting to move Goldie out of the space first. But everything was too late. When Xiaohua's mind entered the space, the fire origin also followed the fluctuations and entered the space. Alas! Xiaohua sighed, and prepared to welcome the calamity of the space. Rumble! Sure enough, the entire space started to shake. It was a kind of shaking that was close to the shaking of mountains and earth. Although Xiaohua's mind was formless, it was still shaking endlessly. Then, the pitch-black collapse gradually enlarged from a small. At the same time, it rapidly moved towards the higher part of the space. A kind of desire, a kind of joy, and a kind of peace filled the entire space. That pitch-black dot enlarged at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it submerged Xiaohua's mind and filled the entire space. At this moment, that joyful aura disappeared again. Another kind of wild, scorching, fearless, pursuing, and rampant will wreak havoc in the entire space. This is fire. The true fire origin. The golden threads in Xiaohua's blood were absorbed by the fire origin, and his mind was submerged in the fire origin. It was extremely easy for him to sense the true essence of the fire origin. Previously, all the bone tempering, body condensation, and red spirit fire were only the appearance of the fire origin. They were not the essence of the fire origin at all. The reason why the fire origin became an origin was because it was the beginning of fire. It contained the will of fire, the spirit of fire, and the origin of fire. This was a part of the heavenly Tao. This was the most precious part of the fire origin. If Xiaohua only obtained the previous benefits and threw away the fire origin, then it would be like picking up a sesame seed and throwing away a blade of grass. When the heavenly Tao contained within the fire origin was infinitely enlarged in the space, The fluctuations of the heavenly Tao strengthened again. The fire origin that had already turned into the heavenly Tao was sucked into the starry sky and fused with the heavenly Tao in the space. Rumble! The entire space shook again. Flames suddenly appeared, and the entire starry sky was lit up. Xiaohua's mind was in the space. He could even feel the heavenly Tao burning in the starry sky. His mind was like an ant, looking up at the boundless volcano. Although there was no hope of conquering this volcano, but the volcano was deeply engraved in the mind of an ant. Xiaohua's mind was also burning. It burned without pain, and it burned with joy. After an unknown amount of time, Xiaohua's mind suddenly woke up. It seemed like he had been reborn, but it also seemed like he had just woken up. The flames that stretched across the entire sky had long disappeared. The heavenly Tao's starry sky above the space was a lot brighter. Many places that were previously blurry were now clear. The orbits between the stars were also clear. Xiaohua even had a feeling that he was in the starry sky. Great, great. At this moment, Xiaohua was already indescribably happy. He already somewhat understood the reason. It should be the heavenly Tao contained within the fire origin that had fused with the heavenly Tao's starry sky. The fire origin had absorbed the golden threads in Xiaohua's blood and brought Xiaohua's thoughts and other things into the heavenly Tao. This was far stronger than when Xiaohua only immersed his mind in the heavenly Tao to cultivate. Of course, this was only Xiaohua's own understanding. As for whether it was true or not, how could he say for sure? "Mother!" Little Yellow's voice rang out. Xiaohua instantly came to his senses and was overjoyed. He smiled and said, "Are you all right, Little Yellow?" "Of course I'm fine. Mother, why did you come in? Are you taking me out to play?" Little Yellow asked. "Hee hee, didn't you feel anything different just now?" "Yes, as soon as Mother came in, the ground started to shake, and then the sky started to burn. After that, Mother fell asleep." "How long did Mother sleep?" "In a while," after Little Yellow answered. Xiaohua was amused. Of course, how could Little Yellow know how long she had slept? Let's go out," Xiaohua said with a smile. Squeak, squeak, Little Silver also seemed to understand. He had just been hugging his two paws and staying next to Little Yellow, but at that moment he scurried onto Little Yellow's back. When Xiaohua's mind left the space, everything in front of him had changed again. The flames that had been hovering around him earlier had now completely disappeared into his meridians. The prairie fire mantra was still running inside his body, and his cultivation had already reached the middle stage of level 18 of the Qi refinement realm. Furthermore, the chaotic and violent spirit Qi of heaven and earth in East Ridge's herb garden had already calmed down, and that scorching heat had also disappeared. Chapter 1817. It seems that the changes in the Eastern Ridge herb garden were caused by the origin of fire. This kind of vision must have landed in. Who is this guy? Xiaohua thought and was about to take out the token from his storage pouch, but when his hand touched the token, his heart stirred. True Samadhi fire appeared in his hand and instantly burned Jianghu's token into nothingness. Who cares who he is? I don't want to know. If I do, it'll be a knot in my heart. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes. Anyway, I just need to kill a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. This guy must have seen the vision in the Eastern Ridge herb garden and thought of the so-called fire essence. He wanted to use the fire essence to break through to the foundation establishment realm. But how did he know the origin of fire had appeared? Xiaohua thought and his eyes turned. His figure escaped into the ground. When he carefully investigated, he found the formation Jianghu had set up. Good, this guy really put in a lot of effort. Such a big formation, I don't know how long he set it up. Xiaohua was flabbergasted. And he said those aura refining disciples weren't killed by him. He must have been afraid that people would discover his formation and kill them, so they didn't dare to come over. The token for the herb garden's formation must have been taken away by him at that time. This guy actually knows how to set up formations. He must have these jade slips in his storage pouch. Xiaohua was delighted and thought, no wonder Changhuan and the others like to kill people for their belongings. Every time they kill someone, they get endless benefits. How could it not attract him to kill people? It's just that this guy is a late-stage Foundation establishment senior. He seems to be from the Heavenly Thunder Palace. This guy's death will definitely cause a lot of panic. His things should all be stored in the space. Xiaohua knew the importance of Qian Yuhua's storage pouch. He threw everything into the space and burned the storage pouch with true samadhi fire. Seeing the huge storage pouch get destroyed, Xiaohua's heart ached, but there was nothing he could do. This storage pouch couldn't be put into a storage pouch and he couldn't, Thinking that the storage pouch couldn't be put into a storage pouch and couldn't be put into the space, Xiaohua was stunned and thought, storage pouches can't be put into storage pouches, but who said they can't be put into the space? Why am I acting up again? Don't jump to conclusions without trying. Thinking of this, Xiaohua untied a storage pouch from his waist and took out all the things he had hidden. With a thought, the storage pouch was smoothly put into the space without any changes. Haha, that's great. Xiaohua laughed, then pulled out his bag of holding to try again. The result was the same. Damn it, if I had known earlier that storage bags could be stored in the space, why would I have burned them? Looking at the ashes of the storage bag that had just been burned, Xiaohua bitterly smiled. Little Yellow and Little Silver seemed to be very fresh. The two little things flew around East Ridge's herb garden and seemed to be having a lot of fun, so Xiaohua didn't put them into his space. He sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to cultivate. Although the origin of fire caused a great commotion, its effects were all basic. Xiaohua had entered the middle stage of the 18th layer of the aura refining realm, and its effects were still in the fire marrow flame crystal. If he wanted to increase his magic power, he still had to temper the fire marrow flame crystal. A few more days passed. Xiaohua sensed that the formation was moving, so he withdrew his command token with the intention of opening the formation. However, the command token was actually ineffective. Oh no! Xiaohua immediately understood why Qian Yuhua had burned the other command token and said that he wouldn't need it anymore. It turned out that this guy had already tampered with the formation. I'm trapped inside. Xiaohua bitterly smiled and flew out again to carefully inspect the formation. Xiaohua had already set up the Heavenly Fire formation and refined the Rabbit Talisman before, so he had some understanding of formations. Moreover, Qian Yuhua had acted in a hurry, so he only changed the key areas and left most of the formation untouched. Xiaohua referred to Qian Yuhua's formation Jade Slip as the foundation and used more than 10 days to restore the formation of East Ridge's herb garden. When Xiaohua opened the formation, 2 crimson communication talismans flew in. They were both messages from Xiangyang in Myriad Thunder Valley. The first communication talisman said, Junior Brother Xiao, Junior Brother Cui has already sent back a thunder sound transmission talisman. He has already established his foundation and will return in 5 days. Master is very happy and wants us to go to the mountain gate to welcome him. The second communication talisman said, Junior Brother Xiao, Junior Brother Cui has already returned. Master is preparing to hold a celebration in Myriad Thunder Valley in 10 days. You have to come early. And last time you didn't come and didn't send a communication talisman, so Master was very angry. I said that you sent a communication talisman and were in seclusion, but Master didn't say anything. This time, Master said that no matter what kind of seclusion you are in, you have to come to the celebration. After all, this is a joyous event that hasn't happened in Myriad Thunder Valley in 100 years. You have to come early. Don't make Master angry again. Xiaohua rubbed his hands, and the 2 communication talismans turned into ashes. He thought to himself, eldest senior brother is wholeheartedly protecting me, but Master, because Junior Brother Cui established his foundation, he doesn't care whether I'm in seclusion or not. I'm afraid he has already forgotten whether I can establish my foundation or not. What's the point of me going there? Alas, what a pity. I'm a disciple of Myriad Thunder Valley. Master has a plan, so I can't not go. Xiaohua sighed and turned to look at Eastern Ridge. A year ago, I thought I could stay in Eastern Ridge for a while longer. Now that the origin of fire has disappeared, the fire-type spiritual energy won't be as dense as before. I'm afraid Shaoyan grass won't be able to grow in the future. However, there are still other spiritual plants. I also have puppets in my space, so it'll be easy to plant more spiritual plants. Just as he was thinking this, another thunder sound transmission talisman flew over from a distance. Xiaohua frowned and took a look. It was the third sound transmission talisman from eldest senior brother Xiang Yang. Junior brother Xiao, what the hell are you doing? Are you really going to establish your foundation? If not, hurry over. Today is junior brother Chui's celebration. Master already flew into a rage when he didn't see you this morning. Ah? It's actually today. Xiaohua thought the sound transmission talisman had already been sent for a long time, but he didn't expect it to only be a dozen or so days ago. Thus, without thinking, he called for Little Yellow and Little Silver to enter the space. He sealed the array in Eastern Ridge's medicine garden and used the bright thunder escape to fly along a shortcut to Myriad Thunder Valley. The path Xiaohua was flying on was the shortest, but there was also a forbidden area of the Imperial Thunder sect on it. This was the black-gray mark on the token, and at the same time, Xiang Yang had very solemnly warned him not to approach it no matter what. In the past, when Xiaohua flew to and fro Myriad Thunder Valley, he would always avoid it. Today, in order to be faster, he was taking a risk. Fortunately, when Xiaohua flew past the forbidden area, he didn't see anything out of the ordinary. It was only after he had flown far away that the faint rumbling of thunder from the bright thunder escape reached a secret place in the forbidden area. A palm-sized thing with faint green patterns on its body trembled slightly, as if it had just been awakened from a deep sleep. Xiaohua anxiously rushed to Myriad Thunder Valley. He didn't dare release his divine sense rashly, but when he landed in front of Helpless Cave Dwelling, there was still no divine sense. Moreover, the front of Helpless Cave Dwelling was the same as usual, and there wasn't any jubilant atmosphere at all. Xiaohua looked at the quiet cave dwelling in puzzlement. His divine sense swept over it, but there was a restriction protecting it, so he couldn't see clearly. Strange. Xiaohua immediately flew to Xiang Yang's cave dwelling, but there was also no one there. Strange. Did something big happen? Xiaohua suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. After all, this guy had killed several disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect. Could it be that someone had come to find him? But, even if they found him, we still have to go to the eastern mountain range? Xiaohua was puzzled, so he quickly sent a thunder sound transmitting talisman. The sound transmitting talisman had just flown out, but it immediately flew back. It was from Xiang Yang, stating his location. I'm confused. Xiaohua slapped his forehead, and a wry smile appeared on his face. Foundation establishment cultivators all have their own cave dwellings. Since junior martial brother Chui has built his foundation, he naturally has to live in his own cave dwelling. How could the celebration still be held in master and senior martial brothers' cave dwelling? Soon after, Xiaohua flew up again, still using ordinary flying techniques, and flew towards Di Hongshan's cave dwelling. After a short while, a small cave dwelling appeared in front of Xiaohua in a place filled with spiritual energy. That cave dwelling was exactly halfway up the mountain. There were some green pines and green cypresses on the left side, but there were even more green bamboos as thick as a bowl. Wherever the wind passed, there was a rustling sound, like the soft whispers of waves. Good, I didn't expect junior martial brother Chui to be such an elegant person. Xiaohua looked at the cave dwelling, which had a completely different style from Xiang Yang's cave dwelling, and couldn't help but feel surprised. At this time, on the cave stone wall, there were actually several large bright red lanterns hanging. A long red cloth wrapped around the entrance of the cave dwelling, just like a secular family's wedding ceremony. Not far from the entrance, that azure ape was also looking left and right, bored to death. Xiaohua looked at Di Hongshan's cave dwelling, and in his mind, Qian Diheng unconsciously appeared. In his mind, Qian Diheng was also wearing red and green clothes, with an extremely awkward appearance. Xiaohua thought of this and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Umph! A sneer sounded in Xiaohua's ear. It was Xiang Yang's extremely angry voice. Xiaohua was startled and hurriedly descended from midair. At the same time, Xiang Yang's familiar divine sense swept over. Junior martial brother Xiao. Seeing Xiang Yang rush out, he hurriedly blinked at Xiaohua and said, "How was your seclusion this time? Did you make any progress?" "Progress?" Xiaohua said in his heart. "What progress? I just casually used the fire origin to temper my bones, and while I was at it, I also killed a late Foundation establishment old bastard." But the expression on his face was just as Xiang Yang thought, somewhat gloomy, and he sighed, "It's a long story, senior martial brother." Hee, since it's a long story, then don't say it. Xiang Yang was secretly happy in his heart and hurriedly blocked Xiaohua's words, saying with a smile, "Foundation establishment isn't a simple matter. Earlier, I already told you the things you need to pay attention to clearly. Among them, the most important thing is to not be impatient. If you can go into seclusion, then go into seclusion. If you can travel, then travel. This is the way to relax. Now my 10,000 Thunder Valley has another junior martial brother who has reached Foundation establishment. This is a big matter for 10,000 Thunder Valley, so your seclusion can be put aside first. Let him come in." A helpless voice sounded beside the two people's ears. "Yes, this disciple understands." Xiang Yang blinked his eyes and hurriedly replied. "You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.